Show. It is Sunday, June 11th, 2023. We are back. We're back live. We're broadcasting on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network, and our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep. So I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday, June 9th, and we talked about the indictment of Donald John Trump on 37 count federal indictment. This is the second time he's been indicted on criminal charges. We know back in March he was indicted by Attorney General, District Attorney Alan Bragg in Manhattan. These are federal charges. It's 7 charges, a 37 count federal indictment. 31 counts involve the Espionage Act of 1917. Okay, so we're going to discuss this on today's show. I have been going through reading the 37 count federal indictment, and I've been going through reading it here. I went and got it printed up. So we're going to go through and break down some of this. And these are very serious charges that Donald Trump is facing. Okay. So we'll discuss this and give you some more information and some sources to read on this. And as can be expected, many Republicans are acting like there's nothing to see here. Okay. So we'll break some of that down for you as well. So once again, Thursday, June 8th, 2023, we got the news of the federal indictment of former President Donald John Trump on 7 federal charges. On Friday, June 9th, the federal indictment was unsealed, and we found out it was regarding 37 counts, which included 31 counts of allegedly violating the Espionage Act of 1917. So we're going to give you some information on the Espionage Act of 1917. Now, this 37 count federal indictment accuses Donald Trump of breaking 7 different laws, 7 S-E-V-E-N, 7 different laws, including 31 counts of willful retention of national defense information and single counts of false statements and representations, and conspiracy to obstruct justice, withholding a document or record, corruptly concealing a document in a federal investigation, and a scheme to conceal. So this is, I went and printed this up. I've been looking at it. I've been reading numerous articles on this and reading excerpts of the federal indictment since it was released on Friday. But I've actually been going through and reading the actual federal indictment, and it is it is devastating, and it's very easy to read. You don't have to have a law degree to be able to follow along. So now I don't know if a lot of Republicans will be able to follow along. You know, a lot of the Republicans that call in to this radio station defending Donald Trump, I don't know if they'll be able to follow along with it, but we'll see. And the call-in number is 313-778-7600. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number if you have a question or comment. Now, I know you've had, conservatives calling in since it was announced that Donald Trump was going to be indicted. And I know you have Black conservatives calling in, trying to protect the traitor in chief, things like this. So you're welcome to call into this show because we're going to fact check you real time. I have the federal indictment. We're going to show it on the screen. We're going to walk you through some of this. I'll give you the sources. You can research this yourself because proper documentation ends all conversation. So if you call in here, it'll be helpful if you actually read this, not get your information from Fox News. It'd be helpful like if you actually read this. Okay, so we'll discuss that. Now, also, there's June 19th is not just Juneteenth. June 19th is the anniversary of the Rosenbergs being executed for violating the Espionage Act of 1917. On June 19th, 1953, Julius and Ethel Rosenberg were executed for espionage at Sing Sing prison in New York. They were convicted of conspiracy to commit espionage under the U.S. Espionage Act of 1917. Now, if the Espionage Act of 1917 sounds familiar to you, it's because this is the same law that Donald Trump is charged with 31 counts of violating. Okay, I just want people to understand this. Okay, so this is going to be like a real history lesson on today's show. So we're going to give you some history involved in the Espionage Act of 1917. We're also going to talk about the Presidential Records Act. Donald Trump loves talking about the Presidential Records Act of 1978. I don't think Donald Trump has actually read the Presidential Records Act, because it states that, all those documents that Donald Trump thinks are his, they belong to the federal government. He's supposed to turn those over to the National Archives when he leaves the presidency, when he leaves the White House. I think in his mind, he's still president, but you're not. That's why you had to leave the White House. You didn't leave the White House because you moved to Mar-a-Lago. You left the White House because you're not the president anymore. You are the ultimate temporary employee. You are the ultimate Kelly service employee. Remember Kelly Services? The Kelly called the Kelly girls temporary employees. Presidents are temporary employees, 4 years, 8 years at the most. So when you leave the White House, all those records you're supposed to turn over by law. So I saw, Donald Trump was this weekend. He was saying but because of the Presidential Records Act of 1978, he gets to keep the records, things like this. I don't think he actually read the Presidential Records Act of 1978. But we'll talk about that also. Now, Monday is June. June 19th is quickly approaching. Juneteenth is quickly approaching. It's going to be Monday, June 19th. And in our second hour, we're going to be joined by Erin Johnson of the Black Farmers Market. She'll join us to talk about their Juneteenth Black Farmer Market taking place on Saturday, June 17th at the Black Urban Farm on Oakland Avenue in Detroit. And I'll have a vendor booth there as well. And Friday, June 16th, Friday evening, I'll be speaking in Mount Clemens for a Juneteenth celebration. We'll have this information, all this information on our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, and our Facebook pages as well, Michael Imhotep and the African History Network. Monday, June 19th, I'll be speaking out in Inkster, Michigan. Okay, so we'll talk about this, and we'll also talk about some Juneteenth history as well. Juneteenth was not the last day of slavery, contrary to what they say in mainstream media. Yes, this was the date that was agreed upon to celebrate enslaved Africans in Texas getting the word that they were freed, but Major General Gordon Granger and his 2,000 Union troops, they spent almost a year going throughout the state of Texas to read General Order Number 3 and enforce it and physically take back Texas and bring it back into the Union. So we know June 19th was the date that was agreed upon to celebrate, but all 250,000 all the enslaved Africans in Texas did not get the word on June 19th that they were free. And even in Galveston, Texas, you're still going to have some who are enslaved until 1866, until the following year. So we're going to deal with some of that history. And when I'm speaking at different Juneteenth events, and I'll be on Charlene Mitchell's show, Mind Your Business, here on 910 a.m. Superstation WFDF on Thursday, June 15th. She's going to have me on 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. This is some of the history we get into, and we're going to connect the history of Juneteenth to the history of the Reconstruction era, to the Jim Crow era, but also to the fight for reparations. You have to understand history to really understand the need for reparations and the fight for reparations and how to bring it into existence, you have to understand history and law. If we're seeking a legal remedy to a historical problem, that implies we must understand both history and law. Okay. Now, somebody asked the question, so why does Joe Biden have documents when he was only VP? Joe Biden's attorneys contacted the National Archives and said they found documents that were classified documents, and they turned them over to the National Archives. They did not obstruct justice. They did not ignore subpoenas. They did not have attorneys make false statements in writing. Okay. When you look at Donald Trump, if Donald Trump had initially, almost 2 years ago, if he initially just turned over all those records, is over 200 records. If he just turned them over 200 classified documents, if he just turned them over to the National Archives when they asked for them, we would not be here now. We're going to go through the actual indictment. Okay. Susan Falk asked this question. So apparently she hasn't studied the difference between Joe Biden and Donald Trump. And at the same time, Mike Pence, classified documents were found at Mike Pence's residence. Mike Pence's attorneys contacted the National Archives and turned them over. There was no obstruction of justice. There's obstruction of justice here. Okay. And not only that, Donald Trump is accused of showing people, at least on 2 occasions, classified documents. You haven't read the indictment. We'll be back in a few minutes. The African History Network show on Michael Imhotep, 9:10 a.m. Superstation WFDF. Stand by, bathroom break in 4 minutes. This is why you need to know what you're talking about. Joe Biden didn't obstruct justice. Joe Biden didn't show classified documents to people who he wasn't supposed to show them to. This is what Donald Trump allegedly did. So you need to read this indictment. It's very thorough. All right, back from break in 4 minutes. Stand by. I have to get ready for this next segment. How's everybody doing? Okay, you can support the African History Network, $ the AHN show through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. Back from break in 3 minutes. How's everybody doing? Okay, so we're going to go to, we'll go to the first article then. Clip number 1 is from NBC News. We'll go to the first article dealing with the federal indictment. Okay, we have statements from Attorney General William Barr. Okay, we got the federal indictment. We have updates from the New York Times. Back from break in 2 minutes. Stand by. Back from break in 1 minute.
Michael Imhotep. On the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. A lot of people don't know what the hell they're talking about. They may have their areas of expertise, but some people need to learn their own lane. If you don't know, just say you don't know. So we have a lot to talk about, so we're going to jump right into this. Catch it all right here on 910 AM Superstation.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation WFDF. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. Calling numbers 313-778-7600, 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. And, I want all those Donald Trump supporters that call into the shows during the week, the ones that have been calling in the past few days. I want y'all to call in right now, especially the Black conservatives that think systemic racism doesn't exist because you don't study history. 313-778-7600 is the calling number. Now, I have to warn you up front. Okay, number one, when you call in, we're going to deal with facts and evidence. Two, we're going to actually deal with we're actually going to deal with the 44-page, 48-page indictment, because I have it up here on the screen. So we're not going to deal with what you think it says. I'm going to go actually to what it says. We're going to actually deal with it. And this is at the New York Times website. They have the actual indictment. They also have annotations here as well. So Donald Trump is facing 31 counts related to withholding national defense, 5 counts related to concealing possession of classified documents. That's called obstruction of justice. Among them are counts of conspiracy to obstruct justice, and withholding documents and records levied against both Donald Trump and his aide, his valet, Walt Nauta, N-A-U-T-A. And then 2 counts of false statements, one for Donald Trump and one for Walt Nauta. So we're going to go to I've got the actual indictment. So we ain't gonna go to what you think it says. We're not gonna go to what you heard on Fox News. No, we're gonna go to the actual indictment. If you call in 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. And that would be no hablo inglés. No hable inglés. So that'd be tres, uno, tres, siete, siete, ocho, siete, seis, 0, 0. Okay, so just so you know, they say, I don't understand English. You can still call in. All right, so let's jump into this. Good article from NBCnews.com. Federal indictment. We're going to clip number 1 from NBC 90 News here in just a second, Doug. Federal indictment accuses Trump of lying and scheming to keep documents he knew were classified. Federal indictment accuses Trump of lying. Donald Trump lying? Are you kidding? See, there you go again. Y'all just like Donald Trump is such an upstanding citizen. He would never lie. Federal indictment accuses Trump of lying and scheming to keep documents he knew were classified. Donald Trump scheming? Are you kidding me? Oh my God. What this is, who wrote this? George Lucas, creator of Star Wars. This is science fiction. Donald Trump would never scheme. The court filings details numerous charges against the former president related to the more than 100 classified documents that were recovered from his Florida home last year. Now, all the documents that were recovered, so he's not being charged related to all of the documents that were recovered. There was over 200. Okay, they're specific on the documents that are involved in these charges here. Now, former President Donald Trump lied and schemed and misled federal investigators in order to hold on to sensitive materials that he knew were still classified, according to a bombshell 37-count federal indictment unsealed on Friday, June 9th, 2023. The indictment, which also names Trump aide Walt Nauta, outlines criminal charges related to the over 100 classified documents federal agents recovered from Trump's Florida resort called Mar-a-Lago in August of 2022. Now, it accuses this 37-count federal indictment accuses Donald Trump of breaking seven, seven different laws, including 31 counts of willful retention of national defense information, and that's deals with violating the Espionage Act of 1917, which we'll talk about, and a single count of false statements and a single count of representations, conspiracy to obstruct, 5 counts of conspiracy to obstruct justice, withholding a document or record, corruptly concealing a document in a federal investigation, and a scheme to conceal. Now, Special Counsel Jack Smith, who brought the charges against Donald Trump and Walt Nauta, said in brief remarks on the indictment, because Jack Smith spoke on Friday, June 9th, is basically the first time we heard him speak. He said in brief remarks on the indictment, quote, "We have one set of laws in this country and they apply to everyone," end quote. I totally agree. No one is above the law, not even a former president, not even someone who claims to be a billionaire but is trying to raise money from poor people to pay his legal fees. Quote, "I invite everyone to read it in full to understand the scope and the gravity." That's gravity, Graviti, not gravy. That's gravity of the crimes charged. He's encouraging people to read. Now, a lot of Fox viewers can't read. Maybe they should put this, like, maybe they should have this like book on tape, have Stormy Daniels recite this, book on tape version for the Fox News viewers. Quote, "I invite everyone to read it in full to understand the scope and the gravity of the crimes charged," Special Counsel Jack Smith said on Friday. Quote, "Our laws that protect national defense information are critical to the safety and security of the United States, and they must be enforced. Violation of those laws puts our country at risk," end quote. Now, some of the charges, including the conspiracy and concealment counts, carry a maximum prison sentence of 20 years in federal prison. Now, Donald Trump has denied any wrongdoing, as usual. "I did nothing wrong. I didn't grab that woman while I wasn't supposed to grab her. I didn't try to sexually assault E. Jean Carroll. I didn't sleep with Stormy Daniels." He's so misunderstood. I mean, he's a complicated man. Only person that would understand him is his woman. Trump has denied any wrongdoing in the case, a stance he maintained on Friday, writing in a social media post on his fake Twitter account, on his fake Twitter platform, Truth Social. He said, "Under the Presidential Records Act," which I don't think Donald Trump has ever read, "under the Presidential Records Act, I'm allowed to do all of this." He also criticized Special Counsel Jack Smith, calling him, quote, "a Trump hater, a deranged psycho that shouldn't be involved in any case having to do with justice," end quote. The indictment alleges that when Donald Trump left the White House, he officially left January 20th, 2021, he took documents that, quote, "included information regarding defense and weapons capabilities of both the U.S. and foreign countries, United States nuclear programs, potential vulnerabilities of the United States and its military and its allies to military attack." Okay, United States nuclear programs, potential vulnerabilities of the United States and its allies to military attack, and plans for a possible retaliation in response to a foreign attack. Now, what's interesting, one of the allegations is he took classified documents dealing with the United States nuclear programs. When we talk about the Rosenbergs, who were convicted of violating the Espionage Act of 1917, and they were executed June 19, 1953 for doing this, they were accused of and found guilty of stealing secrets dealing with the United States nuclear program. Interesting. Now, here's a photo included in the indictment. It shows documents found by Walt Nauta on the floor in a storage room in Mar-a-Lago, including one with classified markings. Now, what's interesting is a lot of this information that's in the indictment, a lot of evidence comes from people that worked for Donald Trump, people that worked in Mar-a-Lago, his attorneys, things like this. Also, you had Secret Service agents that testified in front of the grand jury as well. Now, the documents originated with all of the top national security and law enforcement agencies of the U.S. government, including the CIA, the Department of Defense, the National Security Agency, that's the NSA, the National Geospatial Intelligence Agency, the National Reconnaissance Office, the Department of Energy, and the Department of State and Bureau of Intelligence Research, according to the indictment. Now, why does Donald Trump need all these documents? Because he sure as hell didn't read them when he was in office. Why does he need all these documents? Disclosure of some of the documents contents could put at risk, quote, could put at risk the national security of the United States, foreign relations, the safety of the United States military and human sources, and the continued viability of sensitive intelligence collection methods, end quote, the indictment said. It also added that on 2 occasions, now this is not a Babyface song, okay, on 2 occasions of 2021, Donald Trump showed classified documents to others. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. All right. See, back from break for a minute. Now, this is the dumbass they voted for. This is the dumbass that a lot of these Republicans voted for and a few brain damaged Negroes voted for in 2016. Then in 2020, 74 million people voted for this fool. Okay. All right, back from break in 4 minutes. Stand by. Back from break in 4 minutes. How's everybody doing? Share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Invite your friends to tune in. Stand by. How's everybody doing? All right, we got TC Cook. We got the Atlantic Small Business Training Consortium. Kenny Crockett, Kevin. Okay, Kevin Cook said, educate these people. GM Ross said, I can't stop laughing, Mike. This is hilarious. Giving them the number in Spanish was priceless. We got Kenya Randall. Charles Moore was responding to Susan Falk, who apparently is a Trump supporter. Charles said, did he leave Docs in the garage? If so, investigate, impeach, and prosecute. If not, keep that hearsay crap to yourself. When the documents were discovered at Biden's residence, his attorneys contacted the National Archives. His attorneys turned them over right away. There was no obstruction of justice. There was no coaching people to lie. There was no, let's move the documents before the FBI comes, the day before the FBI comes. They turned over, and it was maybe 30 to 40 documents in total that Biden had. But this goes back to being vice president, but also some when he was in the Senate. He was in the Senate for 36 years. But his attorneys contacted the National Archives and said they found classified documents. That's not what happened with Donald Trump. If Donald Trump had just turned over the documents when the National Archives originally asked for them, okay, and the National Archives, let's see, let's look at the indictment. The National Archives originally asked for them going back to, well, we know that on March 30th, 2022, let me see. Okay, we're coming back from break.
The programmer, those and or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 910 AM Superstation or Adele Media.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation, Future Radio. I'm waiting for all the black conservatives to call in. They call in during the week. In the white conservatives, I'm waiting for all y'all to call in 313-778-7600 because I've got the indictment right here, and we're gonna show it on the screen. We can go through it together. I can read it to you if you like. So yeah, I'm waiting. 313-778-7600 is the calling number if you have a question or comment. For those that don't speak English, tres, uno, tres, siete, siete, ocho, siete, seis, cero, cero. Okay, you could call. If you don't have a phone, ask Tyrone to use his phone. You can. I want y'all to call. Please call. Black conservatives, please call. Those that call during the week, buck dancing, please call. Doug, put them right through. Doug, we're not gonna break for commercial. If they call 30 seconds before commercial, let's go ahead and take them, Doug. I want them to call in. Please call in. We're gonna go to clip number 1, Doug. This is from NBC Nightly News. This is dealing with Trump indicted on 37 counts in classified documents. And also, before y'all call in and embarrass yourselves, I want you to ask yourself this question. If everything was the same, except the name was Barack Obama that was being charged with 37 counts of involving classified documents and 31 counts of violating the Espionage Act of 1917. And Barack Obama had classified documents in his bathroom and in the shower and in the ballroom. Okay. And if he was facing 5 counts of obstruction of justice, and if he said the documents are his, okay, and he can do with them whatever he wants to, and he declassified the documents before he left office, and even if he just thought about declassifying them, they were declassified. If everything was the same, except it was Barack Obama instead of Donald Trump, would you call in here with the stupid ass nonsense that you about to call in here with right now? I want you to call in. Because this is a national show. We got people listening all across the country. We're broadcasting on my social media platforms. I want you to call in 313-778-7600. I just want you to ask yourself this question before you call in and totally embarrass yourself. Let's go to clip number 1, Doug, from NBC Nightly News. Special Counsel Jack Smith revealed.
Good evening and welcome. After a parade of witnesses and 2 grand juries, the government tonight is showing its hand in its classified document case for President Donald Trump, unsealing a 37-count indictment alleging that after leaving the White House, Mr. Trump illegally possessed classified government materials at his Mar-a-Lago home. The special counsel includes photos of boxes stored in the open, some allegedly holding descriptions of foreign nuclear capabilities of U.S. defenses. The indictment also accusing the ex-president of showing national defense secrets to visitors at his New Jersey golf club, including military attack plans. The indictment also detailing alleged efforts by Mr. Trump to mislead the government and his own lawyers about the whereabouts of the material. Tonight, Special Counsel Jack Smith, who brought the case, breaking his silence, asking Americans to read the 49-page indictment in full. Laura Jarrett leads off our coverage.
Tonight, new details on the stunning move by the Special Counsel, the first federal indictment of a former president who's also the leading Republican challenger to President Biden. Special Counsel Jack Smith alleging Mr. Trump mishandled classified documents after leaving office and obstructed efforts to retrieve them from his estate in Florida.
We have one set of laws in this country, and they apply to everyone.
Smith laying out 37 criminal counts against the former president, including charges under the Espionage Act, accusing him of improperly retaining national defense information. The indictment says among the classified documents kept in boxes, information about U.S. nuclear programs, potential vulnerabilities of the U.S. and allies, and secret plans for retaliation in case of foreign attack.
Our laws that protect national defense information are critical to the safety and security of the United States and be enforced. Violations of those laws put our country at risk.
The boxes were stored in various places around Mr. Trump's Mar-a-Lago home, including a ballroom, a bathroom and shower, an office space, his bedroom, and a storage room. Prosecutors attached photos to the indictment showing boxes stacked along the walls in storage rooms, another showing several documents spilling out of a box. Mr. Trump responding late today, writing the box contained newspapers and personal pictures. The indictment also alleges Mr. Trump showed classified information to people without security clearances on 2 occasions, including at his golf club in New Jersey in July of 2021, where during an audio-recorded meeting with a writer, publisher, and 2 members of his staff, he showed them, quote, a plan of attack that Mr. Trump said was prepared for him by the Department of Defense and a senior military official, saying, quote, as president, I could have declassified it, and now I can't, but this is still a secret. Those comments seemingly a direct contradiction to the former president's previous defense.
I took what I took, and it gets declassified.
That using his power as commander-in-chief, he had already declassified the documents he took to Mar-a-Lago.
If you're the president of the United States, you can declassify just by saying it's declassified, even by thinking about it.
Overnight, Mr. Trump blasting the indictment as another partisan attack.
So it's been going on for 7 years. There's never been anything like what's happened. I'm an innocent man. I'm an innocent person. It's called election interference. They're trying to destroy a reputation so they can win an election.
This all began with a request from the National Archives to return any classified documents held at Mar-a-Lago. The FBI ended up searching the property, and tonight the indictment alleges Mr. Trump obstructed investigators' efforts, including suggesting his own attorney falsely represent to the FBI and grand jury that he did not have any subpoenaed documents, making a plucking motion for his lawyer to remove classified materials from the batch that would be turned over to the government, and even directing his body man, Navy vet Walt Nauta, who was also charged, to conceal them from his legal team and the FBI, even suggesting destroying some of them.
So, Laura, up next, we've got the arraignment. Describe what happens.
That's right. So Mr. Trump is expected to show up in person to enter a formal plea. As for what happens after Tuesday, the judge initially assigned to oversee this case is Aileen Cannon, a Trump appointee. She's very familiar with the facts, as she issued a number of controversial rulings regarding the FBI's search of his home that were later overturned.
And nothing prevents him from continuing to campaign.
Yes, legally nothing prevents him from running for office. And even if convicted, he can still get elected as president. However, the sentencing up to the judge.
All right, Laura Jarrett, thank you. Now to the reaction to the special counsel's announcement. Many of Mr. Trump's Republican allies, even his campaign rivals, rushing to his defense. President Biden was also pressed about today's news. Garrett Hake now has late details.
Tonight, an historic shakeup in the race for the White House. The Republican frontrunner, former President Trump, facing federal criminal charges. And now Mr. Trump getting backup from some of his Republican rivals. His top opponent, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis, writing, quote, the weaponization of federal law enforcement represents a mortal threat to a free society. And his former Vice President, Mike Pence, urging public patience, but blasting the Department of Justice, calling it a sad day in America.
The day after a former president of the United States faces an unprecedented indictment by a Justice Department run by the current president of the United States and a political rival.
And this from GOP candidate Tim Scott.
What we've seen over the last several years is the weaponization of the Department of Justice against a former president.
And House Speaker Kevin McCarthy.
that goes to the core of equal justice for all, which is not being seen today, and we are not going to stand for it.
Few in the GOP criticizing Mr. Trump, though fierce Trump critic Chris Christie writing, "No one is above the law." Mr. Trump, who was seen on the golf course today, has politically survived multiple criminal investigations and being impeached and acquitted twice, and has been bracing for this moment, which would almost certainly derail most presidential campaigns. But now fundraising off the indictment after seeing donations surge following his indictment in a Manhattan court 2 months ago, even selling T-shirts printed with the indictment date. A pro-Trump political group releasing this new ad.
Stand with President Trump.
Many Republicans slamming what they call a two-tiered justice system, pointing to the ongoing federal criminal investigation of President Biden's son, Hunter, and the special counsel Biden's own handling of classified documents with home and garage, though Biden attorneys have cooperated with investigators. Tonight, the president was asked about the indictment of his top GOP challenger.
Garrett, there's also a shakeup Mr. Trump's legal team. What can you tell us about that?
That's right, Lester. The former president's two lead defense attorneys both resigning today on little detail as to why. Mr. Trump says he'll have new representation in place by Tuesday's hearing. Lester?
All right, Garrett, thank you. Joining me now is senior...
Pause it right there. They resigned because they knew his ass is guilty. That's why. Okay, we're going to continue this on the other side of the break. I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday breaking this down. We're going to let you hear what happened there. And I asked the question, hey, if this was Barack Obama, would conservatives be out here saying, oh, it's nothing to see, oh, it's all right, oh, it's unjust? We know the answer to that. 313-778-7600. Where are all the white conservatives that call in all during the week? Where are all the black conservatives? Give us a call, 313-778-7600. The African History Network show on Michael Imhotep. We ain't playing those reindeer games. We're gonna go straight to the indictment. We'll be back in a few minutes. I will attack, and you don't want that. Stand by, bathroom break in 4 minutes. Stand by. I have to get ready for this next segment. Okay, you can support the African History Network, $, the AHN show through Cash App, $, the AHN show through Cash App. Also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. We have the information at our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. We have new classes starting up on my 12-week online course, Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, Understanding the Transatlantic Slave Trade, what they didn't teach you in school. New classes starting up Sunday, June 18th, in time for the Juneteenth celebration. 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, Sunday, June 18th. We'll have the web information at our website, The African History Network, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. Okay, stand by. Okay, we got 3 minutes left here. Back from break in 3 minutes. We're going to go to Roland Martin Unfiltered when we come back. I was on Roland's show breaking this down. Okay, we've got to go to clip one. Clip one is we have Erin Johnson coming up at the top of the hour. We're going to clip. We're going to clip 2. Oh, hell, what is this? Stand by. Back from break in 2 minutes, everybody. Stand by. How's everybody doing? Give us a thumbs up. Give us a heart. Give us a like on this broadcast.
Reparations. If you want original programming, we have that too. The Word Network is your exclusive source for all things inspiration, and we can be found on every device imaginable. If you want to be uplifted and inspired, you need the Word Network. WFDF Farmington Hills, Detroit. 910 AM Superstation, a division of Adele Media. If great programming is what you want, 910 AM is what you need.
I'm the host of the Imhotep. On the African History Network show, we focus on educating and empowering our people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. A lot of people don't know what the hell they're talking about. They may have the areas of expertise, but some people need to learn how to stay in their own lane. If you don't know, just say you don't know. We have a lot to talk about, so we're going to jump right into this.
Catch it all right here on 910 AM Superstation.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation, WFDF. All right. 313-778-7600 is the calling number. I talked to Doug. Doug, are the phone lines working tonight? No, I just knew all the white conservatives. You say, okay, what'd you say, Doug? Go ahead. What'd you say?
I said, yeah, the phone lines are working. No one's calling in, sir.
Okay. All right. I'm just checking, man, because I know they've been calling in the past couple of days, and call in now. We've got the indictment right here. Call in right now. I'm ready. Bring it. Come on, bring it. I know y'all been calling in. I know the black conservatives been calling in. I know I'm not gonna call some of the names on the air. I don't want to embarrass y'all, but call in right now. Okay, 313-778-7600. Okay, if you don't have a phone, borrow Tyrone's phone. Okay, you know it's a toll-free call. Okay, call in, please. All right, now Friday, June 9th, I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered, and we discussed this unprecedented criminal indictment of a former president. First time a former president has been indicted on federal charges. Okay, we're going to clip number two. Doug. Let's go to this clip, please.
And so we'll do that. But right now, I want to direct my panel, Michael Imhotep, host of the African History Network show, Monique Presley, crisis manager, also host of Make It Make Sense, Monique Presley, Cleo Monago, behavioral expert, Joseph as well. Glad to have all three of you here. Monique, I'll start with you, talk about with your legal background. I'm absolutely laughing at all of these Republicans who are having a conniption. They are, I mean, Martin Levin on Fox News is literally beside himself. And what was killing me are all these fools who refuse to even acknowledge that all Trump had to do was hand them back the documents. We're not here. No, he wanted to keep the classified documents, including some of America's top secrets.
Roland, he had a chance even after that. It's not even about him handing back the documents. He could have gotten away with that crime, the way white men get away with crimes all the time. He still could have gotten away with that crime. But as I tweeted about an hour and a half ago, dear Americans, you have the right to remain silent. Use it. As Grandmama and them would say, Hirsch, shut up. If he had just kept his documents and then didn't feel it's ego, it's hubris, it's arrogance, it's all of those things that led him to be talking and around documents. See, what I want to say is, I mean, he's like all of our uncles at the cookout. Let me tell you something about what I did in World War II when they weren't even born in World War II. It's the lies, damn lies, and politics of it that is now, frankly, going to land him incarcerated. Like, this is not a drill. But my point in this first comment is, if he had just remained silent, why are you talking about this to the press and to the people who bring you Coca-Colas? and to the people who, you know, like you mad at General Millen, and so now you waving documents around and you're saying out loud while you know you're recorded, it's too late for me to declassify. Listen, I think I die. Whatever the young people say, I am passing it because I knew he was stupid. I just didn't know he was dumb.
Well, no. Well, here's the deal, Michael. First of all, I always knew he was dumb. Here's what cops always say: they appreciate dumb criminals because they are dumb, because they do dumb-ish. That's what this fool is. You're keeping documents that lays out the country's nuclear capabilities. You've got documents that dictate how our allies are going to respond to a first strike. Dude, this is not, oh, I kept a letter from the leader of North Korea. No, you literally have documents showing the nuclear capabilities of the United States. Hell yes, you're going to get indicted.
Absolutely, Roland. And now on top of that, obstruction of justice as well. So if you're absolutely correct, if he had just handed the records back when the National Archives first asked for them, this would not be a story. But my favorite type of white supremacist is a dumbass white supremacist. And Donald Trump is my favorite type of white supremacist. This is, as I explained to many people here on this show, as well as on the African History Network show, this is a much more straightforward case than the January 6th insurrection. There are going to be charges coming from that, but this is not a who done it. This is a you did it. The documents were at Mar-a-Lago. Donald Trump admitted they were at Mar-a-Lago. He admitted he took the documents. He said he had every right to take the documents. And he said, I want my documents back as well. So, you know, if mess around and find out was a person, it'll be Donald Trump. And this is, you know, you've had many Republicans who said this is a sad day for America, like punk-ass things like this. No, this is a very good day for America. This is a good day for the rule of law. This is a day to show that no man or woman is above the law, even a former president. So I've been following this. I told you back in November 2022, Roland, right here on the show, when Special Counsel Jack Smith was appointed by Attorney General Merrick Garland. That was the right thing to do. Garland followed the Department of Justice policy. And I said, this is not going to take very long. This is going to lead to an indictment. And just so people understand, President Biden did not indict Donald Trump. It was a grand jury made up of U.S. citizens that indicted Donald Trump.
Okay, pause it right there. Pause it right there, Doug. Pause it right there. Doug, pause it right there. Okay, pause it right there, Doug. Okay, now what we're gonna do, we have Doug, stop the clip. All right, thank you. Okay, we have Olaf on the line. Olaf, let's squeeze you in before the break because I have a guest coming on at the top of the hour. Olaf from Brightmoor, go ahead with your question or comment. You're live on the air.
Yeah, thank you for taking my call, and shout out to you, Carl Scruton, good guy. But listen, brother, I'm a staunch Democrat. I've been voting Democrat all my life, and voting for Joe Biden, even though I didn't want him to run this time. I wanted somebody like a Gavin Newsom or the governor of this state. But let me ask you this, as it comes to this scumbag Trump. Now, yeah, rightfully so, he's getting his just dues. But why didn't they go after Mike Pence? He also had documents that he had
the reason why is because
had on his premises of his house in Indiana. And him and Trump both left at the same time.
Olaf, I'm asking you a question. Mike Pence's attorney contacted the National Archives and told them that they found classified documents at Mike Pence's residence, and they turned them over. There was no obstruction of justice. They didn't have to be subpoenaed. They didn't lie about him. They didn't get. He didn't get people to lie. His attorneys contacted the National Archives and they turned them over. If Donald Trump had turned over these documents when the National Archives originally contacted them almost about 2 years ago or so, we would not be here right now. They just wanted the documents back. He was the one who obstructed justice. He was the one who lied. He was the one that got other people lying. He was the one who had an attorney sign off on a document saying that they received all of them when they turned over 38 documents, and the National Archives is saying, no, there's still documents missing. This is when the FBI had to serve a search warrant and show up at Mar-a-Lago. Okay, so what Mike Pence did is totally different, even though Kevin McCarthy doesn't want to talk about Mike Pence having classified documents. It's not the fact that they have classified documents. It's that they didn't turn them over when the National Archives asked for them. Back from break in 4 minutes. Okay. So we have an interview coming up at the top of the hour, and then we have an interview coming up at the top of the hour dealing with Juneteenth, and then we'll come back to this topic here. Back from break in 2 minutes. Now, somebody said it's a demonic witch hunt. They're going to find a whole lot of witches. I guarantee you that.
10 a.m. Superstation, a division of Adele Media. The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producers and or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 910 a.m. Superstation or Adele Media.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation WFDF. All right. Visit our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. If you like this type of information, you can support the work that we do. This work does not happen without resources. You can support us through Cash App, $ the AHN show through Cash App, and also through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. So go to our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. It has our social media handles there, information about our Sunday night radio show, how to listen to audio podcasts. We have our PayPal information, paypal.me/the AHN show, and our Cash App information. This is our official Cash App account, $ the AHN show, SHOW. When you go to it, it'll say Michael. There's some fake African History Network Cash App accounts out there that have been stealing money from us. I'm still trying to get them shut down. When you click on our link here for Cash App, it takes you to our QR code. This is our official Cash App account, okay? This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, keep broadcasting, pay some of the bills, pay when I got to get stuff printed, like I had to get this indictment printed this weekend, etc. Okay? All right. On the line, we're joined by Erin Johnson, and Erin is with the Detroit. Erin is a co-founder of the Detroit Black Farmer Land Fund, and they are having a fantastic event that's coming up on Saturday, June 17th, here in Detroit, and this is centered around Juneteenth. Welcome to the African History Network show, Erin. How you doing today? Do we have Erin on the line? Okay. Okay. We'll wait for. Let me know when Erin calls in. Okay, let me know when Erin calls in, and we'll go back to the story dealing with the indictment. Okay, let's look at the. Um, let's see here. Well, this is what we'll do. I want to go to. We'll look at the indictment here in just a minute. But Doug, we're going to go to clip number 3. Okay, let me introduce clip 3. So when I was on Roland Martin Unfiltered on Friday, June 9th, I asked the question if everything was the same except the name was Barack Obama instead of Donald Trump. Will Republicans say there was nothing to see here? Okay, let's go to clip number 3, Doug.
Folks, welcome back. One of the things that really jumps out at me is that what his aides did, Michael, they literally loaded the plane and moved from Mar-a-Lago to his other resort, and I'm like, are you serious? Again, I'm looking I look at some of these reactions. It's crazy. It's absolutely crazy. Like Eric Erickson said, oh man, this document is damning, but I think it's best left up to 150 million voters. I'm like, wait a minute. So the rich guy doesn't get to be held accountable. What's the point of the law if it's, oh, well, you know what, I used to be in the Oval Office, I can just pretty much do what I want? No. This man, like anybody else, should be held accountable. And guess what? It's a whole bunch of black politicians who have been sent to prison for wrongdoing, and didn't nobody say, just go ahead and give them a break because they're a politician.
Absolutely. Roland, Walt Nata has been hit with 6 charges, including conspiracy to obstruct, withholding the document or record, and scheme to conceal. And this was an aide to Donald Trump as well. He allegedly moved boxes the day before the FBI came to serve a search warrant. So when you have these Republicans who were the party of law and order, they backed the blue until the coup, as I've said numerous times here on this show, which is absolutely true. Until the January 6, 2021 insurrection, they backed the blue. They used to tell African Americans, just comply. If you had just complied, maybe you wouldn't have been shot. If you had just complied, maybe you wouldn't have been beaten upside your head. So the question I would ask for Eric Erickson, the question I would ask for Kevin McCarthy and the rest of these Republicans who want to compromise any integrity that they have, would you say the same thing if everything was the same except the name was Barack Obama instead of Donald Trump? And documents were found at Barack Obama's house, classified documents, and he didn't give them back. Would you say the same thing? Oh, just leave it up to the voters. Oh, no, you shouldn't prosecute. No, you wouldn't. So these are the people. I want them to keep talking. I want them to show a clear distinction between people who hold office, who have some integrity, and people who have totally prostituted themselves for Donald Trump. And these are the people who have to be voted out of office and should never hold power again.
Okay, pause it right there. Okay, we're waiting on Aaron Johnson to call in, but let's go to the actual federal indictment. I was hoping that Donald Trump supporters will call in because I wanted to have a conversation with you. I wanted to get your thoughts on actually reading the indictment. If there was certain pages you wanted to go to. I went and got this printed up, and we're about to show it here right on the screen. The certain pages you want to discuss, we can have that discussion. And I'm going to post a link here. This is from the New York Times, but if you read articles from NBC News, they have the actual indictment there as well. You can read it, you can download it, etc. So if we look at this here, Trump classified documents indictment, it has annotations from the New York Times. The Justice Department on Friday unveiled an indictment charging former President Donald Trump with 37 criminal counts. They relate to Mr. Trump's hoarding of sensitive government documents after he left office, and his refusal to return them even after being subpoenaed. His refusal. Now, for all y'all posting on my social media platforms, things like this, you can post, but go read this. He refused to return the classified documents even after being subpoenaed for all remaining records in his possession that were marked classified. Okay. 31 counts related to withholding national defense information. That deals with the Espionage Act in 1917. 1 count against Donald Trump for each document he was alleged to have kept in his possession. 5 counts related to concealing possession of classified documents. That deals with obstruction of justice. Among them are counts of conspiracy to obstruct justice and withholding documents and records levied against both Donald Trump and his aide Walt Nauta, and 2 counts of false statements related to statements to the FBI by Donald Trump and his aide Walt Nauta. Okay, so if we look at this here, let's go to page 1. In all my conservative friends, if there's a particular page that you want to talk about here in the actual indictment, feel free. Where you want to go? You want to go ocho? You want to go cinco? You want to go nueve? Which page you want to go to? Okay. Introduction. This is on. This would be page 1 of the indictment. Defendant. Let's increase the font size here so everybody. I want everybody to see it. I don't want people to say, "Oh, well, it's like the picture of E. Jean Carroll that Donald Trump was looking at, from years ago, and the picture's blurry." No, it wasn't blurry. Your eyes were just tearing up. That's all. General allegations. Okay, first of all, indictment. This indictment is not from Donald. The indictment is not from Joe Biden. This indictment is from the grand jury. The grand jury charges, general allegations, at times material to this indictment on or about the dates and approximate time stated below. Okay, so introduction. And let me see. I want to make sure everybody can see this. Okay, and let's see. Can we zoom in on this even more? I may have to go to the. Let's see. I have this in PDF form also. Let's see if the PDF form, I can blow this. Yeah, I can blow this up better in PDF form, it looks like. So we may switch over to the PDF form. Do that. I want everybody to see it. I want people to say, "Oh, I got a flip phone and it's so small I can't see the print or anything like that." Let's do this here. It's going to be, we got the PDF of it. Okay, right here, Trump indictment. Okay, let's look at this here. All right. So here's the PDF of it. Donald J. Trump. It's United States of America versus Donald J. Trump and Walt Nauta. Okay, so introduction. Defendant Donald Trump was the 45th president of the United States. He held office from January 20th, 2017 until January 20th, 2021. Okay. As president, hold on, let's see here. Okay. Let's flip over. Okay. As president, Trump had lawful access to the most sensitive classified documents and national defense information gathered and owned by the United States government, including information from the agencies that comprise the United States intelligence community and the United States Department of Defense. Okay, now, over the course of his presidency, Donald Trump gathered newspapers, press clippings, letters, notes, cards, photographs, official documents, and other materials in cardboard boxes that he kept in the White House. Among the materials Trump stored in his boxes were hundreds of classified documents. Let me repeat this. For all those Republicans who are hard of hearing, Among the materials Donald Trump stored in his boxes were hundreds of classified documents. The classified documents Trump stored in his boxes included information regarding defense and weapons capabilities of the United States and foreign countries. Defense and weapons capabilities of the United States and foreign countries, United States nuclear programs, potential vulnerabilities of the United States and its allies to military attack, and plans for possible retaliation in response to a foreign attack. The unauthorized disclosure of these classified documents could put at risk the national security of the United States, foreign relations, the safety of the United States military and human sources, and the continued viability of sensitive intelligence collection methods. Now, has anybody checked to see how many Russians showed up in Mar-a-Lago, like since Trump left office? I'm just asking. Now, at 12 noon p.m. on January 20th, 2021, Donald Trump ceased being president. Now, I know he thinks he's still president, but you're not. You're a regular citizen. You're not president anymore. Okay? As he departed the White House, Trump caused scores of boxes, many of which contain classified documents. Trump caused scores of boxes, many of which contain classified documents, to be transported to the Mar-a-Lago Club in Palm Beach, Florida, where he maintained his residence. Donald Trump was not authorized to possess or retain those classified documents. We'll continue this on the other side of the break. Listen to the African History Network show on Michael Imhotep. We're actually looking at the actual indictment, the 37-count indictment of Donald John Trump on federal charges. We'll be back in a few minutes. Stand by. Back from break in 4 minutes. Stand by. How's everybody doing? Share this broadcast on your social media platforms. Now, Wally Fitzpatrick said complete crap as usual. A Wally and the Bee. Have you read this indictment? So, Wally, you're telling me that if President Barack Obama did the same thing, if he had over 200 classified documents at his residence, if he refused to give them back, okay, if he had people lie on his behalf, he had attorneys lie on his behalf, Wally Fitzpatrick, you were telling me that that would be crap. That would be totally fine. You were telling me he has the right to reveal classified documents to other people. You're telling me he has the right to maintain classified documents, and you're telling me that President Barack Obama, former President Barack Obama, would have the right to ignore a subpoena from a grand jury. This is what you're telling me, because this is what happened here. If you haven't read this document, Wally Fitzpatrick, you should exercise your right to remain silent, which is what Donald Trump should do, and stop talking. Wally, go ahead and comment, Wally. I want to make sure I understand what Wally and the Beav are saying. You're saying that it was all right. Now, what authority does he have to maintain the classified documents? What authority? These documents are classified as secret, top secret, and confidential. One, they belong to the National Archives. Have you read the Presidential Records Act of 1978, Wally? I'm asking you a question. I'm not picking on you. You commented, so let me help you out here. Okay. Presidential Records Act of 1978 is at National Archives. Have you read it, Wally? This is a different type of show. We deal with facts and evidence. Proper documentation ends all conversation. Have you read it? Let's look at this here. I'm waiting on Wally to respond. Presidential Records Act 1978. I got it here. We're going to look at the Espionage Act in 1917, Wally. This is a different type of show. I'm not just a historian, I'm a political commentator also. So Wally, you can call in 313-778-7600 is the call-in number. 313-778-7600 is the call-in number. Please call in Wally Fitzpatrick. Thank you. Have a good day. Hey, Doug, if Wally calls in, can you put him through, please? I want to talk to him.
Focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. A lot of people don't know what the hell they're talking about. They may have their areas of expertise, but some people need to learn how to stay in their own lane. If you don't know, just say you don't know. So we have a lot to talk about, so we're going to jump right into this.
Here on 910 AM Superstation.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation WFDF. Now, during the break, Wally Fitzpatrick on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network, posted complete crap as usual. And I'm waiting for him to respond. I want him to call in also. Let's look at the Presidential Records Act of 1978, because Donald Trump said because of the Presidential Records Act of 1978, he had the authority to keep classified documents. The documents belong to him, etc. I don't think Donald Trump has actually read the Presidential Records Act. Is at the U.S. National Archives. The website is archives.gov. Presidential Records Act of 1978. The Presidential Records Act. Okay, so we got Erin on the line. Okay, hold the line, Erin. Stand by. Okay, when you come back, Doug, we'll go to Erin. The Presidential Records Act in 1978, 44 USC 2201-2209. governs the official records of presidents and vice presidents, the official records of presidents and vice presidents that were created or received after January 20th, 1981, beginning with the Reagan administration. Okay, now notice former Vice President Mike Pence didn't say he had the right to retain classified documents. He could do with them whatever he wanted to do. He could show them to anybody. He didn't say anything. His attorneys contacted the National Archives, they turned them right over. The Presidential Records Act changed the legal ownership of the official records of the president from private to public and established a new statutory structure under which presidents and subsequently NARA is dealing with the National Archives must manage the records of their administrations. The Presidential Records Act was amended in 2014, which established several new provisions. Specifically, the Presidential Records Act establishes public ownership of all presidential records and defines the term presidential records. Okay, public ownership. The records don't belong to the president or the former president. They have to turn those back over. They are held by the U.S. government. They belong to the U.S. government. They don't belong to the president. When the president leaves the White House, when their term is up, they don't have ownership, custodianship of these documents. They have to turn these over to the National Archives. Now, the National Archives does make provisions if a president has to access certain documents, not necessarily classified documents, but certain documents for writing their memoir or something like that. There are provisions for that. This is not the case with Donald Trump. He wasn't using those documents to write memoir. You're using classified documents regarding nuclear capabilities of the United States government to write your memoir. The Presidential Records Act requires that vice presidential records be treated in the same way as presidential records. It places the responsibility for the custody and management of incumbent presidential records with the president. It requires that the president and his staff take all practical steps to file personal records separately from presidential records. It allows the incumbent president to dispose of records that no longer have administrative, historical, informational, or evidentiary value once the views of the archivists of the United States on the proposed disposal have been obtained in writing. It establishes in law that any incumbent presidential records, whether textual or electronic, held on courtesy storage by the archivists, by the U.S. National Archives, remain in the exclusive legal custody of the president, and that any request or order for access to such records must be made to the president, not NARA. Okay, they're talking about the incumbent, the current president. It establishes that presidential records automatically transfer into the legal custody of the archivist as soon as the president leaves office. Now, Donald Trump said, because of the Presidential Records Act, I can do what I want with these records. I have the right to take them, things like this. I really don't think this fool has actually read what this says, because it does not say he can do whatever he wants. He's no longer the president, so he doesn't have custody of the records anymore. The Presidential Records Act in 1978 establishes that the presidential records automatically transfer into the legal custody of the archivist, which is the U.S. National Archives, the government, as soon as the president leaves office. Who on Donald Trump's legal team? Because he's had 3 attorneys who quit in the last 30 days. One attorney quit like 5-6 days after he did that town hall on CNN and incriminated himself. He incriminated himself on CNN. I want him to have a town hall every day. I want him to have a televised town hall meeting every day. Okay. So Stephen Clark, good question, Stephen. I'm glad you posted this. Stephen Clark said, why did Biden have documents in his possession when he was not the president? Because they were packed and he had them in his possession. It was Biden's attorneys who contacted the National Archives and said, we found these classified documents. They turned them over to the National Archives. National Archives didn't even know they were missing. They turned them over. It didn't require a subpoena. They did not obstruct justice. They did not ignore a subpoena. They did not say, well, we're going to give you some of the documents, but we're going to hold on to the other documents. He didn't conspire allegedly with attorneys and say, why don't we just tell them we don't have any? He didn't tell somebody, move the documents the day before the FBI shows up. It was Biden's attorneys who contacted the National Archives and said, we found these documents. And then that caused them to search other places, other locations, and they turned over all the documents. It was somewhere between 30 to 40, not over 200, like in the case of Donald Trump. If Donald Trump had done the same thing, that when the National Archives almost 2 years ago initially asked for the documents, if he just turned them over, this wouldn't be an issue. The problem was what happened after they asked for the documents, and he refused to give them back, and he delayed, and obstructed justice. So, Stephen, go read the indictment. I encourage you to read. Jack Smith said, read the indictment. You read the indictment. Remember, it's just like when you had dealing with Vladimir Zelensky and the shakedown, which is what the Mueller report was dealing with, and the shakedown of Vladimir Zelensky, who is the new president of Ukraine. Here's my copy of the Mueller report, okay, with annotations from the Washington Post. And he said they released the Trump administration released the memo of the phone call, the memorandum of the phone call. And then the Trump supporters were saying, read the transcript. And then at the bottom of the memorandum, it says a memorandum of a phone call is not a transcript. And those same Trump supporters didn't read the memorandum that they said go read. And it said it's not a transcript. Okay. So this is a different type of show. Okay. So I'm glad. So we got all the Trump supporters. I'm glad y'all coming on here because I want people to see how ignorant you are. Now, Wilfred said you left-wing idiots will never get it. Wilfred, have you read the indictment? Call into the show, Willie. 313-778-7600 is the calling number. Which page of the federal indictment do you want to talk about? We've got it here. Not only that, Willie, we're showing it on. We're going to show it on the screen right now. We're dealing with the Presidential Records Act, 1978. Have you read that? This is what Trump said that gives him the authority to keep documents after he leaves the White House, which is false. He hasn't read it. I don't think you read it either, Willie. The Presidential Records Act establishes that presidential records automatically, that means instantly, automatically, right away, transfer into the legal custody of the archivist. That's the U.S. National Archives as soon as the president leaves the office. Now, if he still thinks in his mind he's president and he's not president, I know his attorneys have told him, you have to turn, you have to turn these records over. Now, I wonder if Donald Trump Jr. is going to put on some sunglasses and do his imitation of Blind Mellow Jelly's son, Potbelly. You remember on Sanford and Son when Bubba pretended to be Blind Mellow Jelly's son, Potbelly, and he said, "I want my daddy's records back." Is Donald Trump Jr. gonna say the same thing? I want my daddy's records. I want my daddy's records. All right. Could be an indictment for Trump Jr. coming too. I'm just saying. And I find it interesting that we got the Republicans commenting, the little trolls. They're talking about Biden's classified documents. Notice they ain't saying anything about the $2 billion that Jared Kushner got from Saudi Arabia after he left the White House. You can talk about Hunter Biden if you want to. Hunter Biden never worked in the White House. Jared Kushner got $2 billion from Saudi Arabia after he left the White House. Why aren't you saying anything about that? No. All right, stand by. This is the Presidential Records Act. Guys, go read this. See, I'm not just a historian. I'm a political commentator. I can deal with y'all all day. I've been on panels. I'll wipe up the floor with these Republicans. You don't know what you're talking about. See, you haven't read the Presidential Records Act. You get your information from Fox News. Then you come here and deal with somebody that actually does research and you get your ass kicked. Now, go right here. This is at archives.gov. What's archives.gov? That's the U.S. National Archives, presidential libraries, Presidential Records Act of 1978. Go read it. Donald Trump hasn't read it. This is why he's sitting up here saying he could do whatever he wants to do. It gives him the authority. No, it tells you're supposed to turn those documents over to the National Archives as soon as you leave the White House. Okay, stand by. When we come back from the break, we're going right to Erin Johnson. She's on the line now. Okay, stand by. I want the Black Republicans to call in. I want the Black Republicans that call in buck dancing for Donald Trump, say systemic racism doesn't exist. This is a witch hunt. They about to find a whole bunch of witches. Witch, please. I want y'all to call in too. This is equal opportunity. See, I'm on Sunday nights. Everybody knows where I am. Call in. You can get away with that stuff when you call during the week. Some people that don't follow this. No, call in when I'm on. See what happens to you. No, We've got the indictment right here. Which page you want to talk about? Stand by. Bathroom break in 1 minute. Bathroom break in 1 minute. Stand by.
AM is what you need.
I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. On the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. A lot of people don't know what the hell they're talking about. They may have the areas of expertise, but some people need to learn how to stay in their own lane. If you don't know, just say you don't know. So we have a lot to talk about, so we're going to jump right into this.
Catch it all right here on 910 AM Superstation. 910, the Superstation. Detroit's only African-American talk radio. The views and opinions expressed on any program are those of the producer or the persons appearing on the program and do not necessarily reflect the views and opinions of 910 AM Superstation or Adele Media.
Welcome back to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation, the Future Radio. I'm your host, Brother Michael Imhotep. All right. On the line, we're joined by Erin Johnson. Erin is the co-director of the Detroit Black Farmer Land Fund, and they have a Juneteenth event coming up Saturday, June 17th. At the Black Urban Farm. Welcome to the African History Network show, Erin. How you doing today?
Good. How you doing, Michael? Thank you so much for having me.
Okay, I'm all right. No problem. And Doug, is our audio coming through clearly? Let me know. Okay, so Erin.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you. Okay. So Erin, go ahead and tell us about this event coming up at the Black Urban Farm, and it centers around Juneteenth as well.
Oh, yeah. So it's at the Oakland Avenue Urban Farm. And so the Detroit Black Farmer Land Fund was founded on Juneteenth in 2020 in order to, facilitate intergenerational Black farmland ownership for Black Detroiters, right? So there are so many Black Detroiters that are growing on land that in many instances they can't afford to buy from the land bank. And so, on Juneteenth 2020, we're in the pandemic. George Floyd had just been murdered, and we were really concerned about some of these Black farmers who didn't have, again, that financial security of owning the land that they were growing food on, food for their communities, food for their families. And so we said, well, let's try to raise $5,000. This is Oakland Avenue Urban Farm in the North End, the Detroit Black Community Food Security Network, which has D-Town Farm, which is on the west side, and Keep Growing Detroit, which has a farm down by Eastern Market. So those three organizations, the Detroit Black Farmer Land Fund, is a coalition. We said, let's raise $5,000 for some of these farmers, and we raised $5,000 in one day, right? And so we have continued over the past 3 years. This is our fourth year of awarding Black Detroiters with funds that have been raised by, again, grassroots efforts, some grants, but, we started off and have always stayed as a grassroots funded effort by the community, an opportunity for the community to speak and say, this is something that's important to us. We're going to make sure that Black Detroiters have the funds that they need to purchase these vacant lands, right? We know how much of Detroit is vacant, and turn it into green spaces, right? Turning it into farming spaces, garden spaces, green spaces. These are some of the best uses for some of the vacant land, right, that the land bank owns, and Black Detroiters want to use that for the benefit of everybody, for their communities. So that's why Juneteenth is important to us, because Juneteenth is the day that we were founded. And so every year at Oakland Avenue Urban Farm in the North End, we have a Juneteenth Black Farmers Market. So this year we're going to have a lot of things going on. Baba Kasente, Chike is going to start us with libations, at 11. We're going to also have an herbalism workshop by OC Detroit. There will be a child care and bubble therapy for children on site. Parents can come enjoy. There's going to be free food. We just determined that this weekend all the food is going to be free. There's going to be free pizza by It's Food Detroit, as well as hamburgers, hot dogs, some cookout staples. There's going to be the regular farmers market. There's also going to be some of our Detroit Black farmers who, again, are awardees of the Detroit Black Farmer Land Fund. There's almost 100 farmers that we've awarded funds for in the past 4 years. And so some of them will be vending some of their produce and products that they produce. And Mollywop is going to be performing at 3 o'clock. So we have a full slate of activities for Juneteenth. This is a big celebration for us every year. It's our opportunity to come together and set intentions for the coming year in terms of how many more farmers we can support and how much money we're trying to raise to do that.
Okay, so what's the goal this year to Saturday? What's the goal that you're trying to hit to raise the monetary goal?
The goal. We always announce that on Juneteenth. Okay. Our application for people interested in the Detroit Black Farmer Land Fund. If you want to purchase land in the city of Detroit to farm or garden on some vacant land, there's an application process you can go through to do that. We drop that application on Juneteenth. So we're not on Juneteenth. It'll be on Saturday, right? Saturday is not Juneteenth, but it's Juneteenth weekend, right? So we will talk about the amount that we're going to try and raise this year, what our goal is, and the application will be available on Saturday.
Okay, so is there a website people can go to? Where can they get more information? And I'll be a vendor there as well, the African History Network. So I'll be there. We'll have a vendor table. We'll have my DVD lectures. We'll have digital downloads. I will be registering people for my new online classes that I teach on the weekend as well. So how can people get more information?
Oh, great. Yes, you can get more information. Our website is DetroitBlackFarmer.com. And then we're also on Facebook and Instagram. It's Detroit Black Farmer Land Fund. So information is available. And I sent you that flyer, Michael. So if you can share that with your viewers, I would really appreciate it. It's on our social media.
Give the website.
But yeah, that would be fantastic.
The flyer's up on the screen right now. Give the website again.
Okay, website is DetroitBlackFarmer.com. And that's also where you can get ready to make your donation, right? If you want to donate to the Detroit Black Farmer Land Fund now or after we start kick off our year on Juneteenth. You can do that at DetroitBlackFarmer.com. There's also some videos about our work, as well as other information about our organizations and how we have continued to grow and thrive in doing this work. We're so excited you're going to join us, Michael. Right. It's going to be a lot of fun. Again, Aaron, free food.
Aaron,
great opportunity to, again, connect
with Black farmers in the city. Farmer, F-A-R-M-E-R, or is there an S on the end of it?
Nope, just Detroit Black Farmer, singular.
Okay.
DetroitBlackFarmer.com.
Okay, good. Because we have the information up here on the screen. All right, and you talked about bubble therapy for the children. What is that?
Yes, bubble therapy is Miss Sun, who is a North End staple, actually, and at the 2021 Black Farmers Market for Juneteenth, did bubble therapy with the children. So just allowing them having a large amount of bubble creation available, right? So different kinds of hoops and circles so the children can make different size bubbles, and giving them free reign. Of course, Oakland Avenue Urban Farm is one of the largest urban farms in Detroit, certainly one of the largest Black urban farms in Detroit. And so the children will have, ample space to kind of run around and create with different size bubble makers, right? And so it's a lot of fun for everyone. I think adults can do it too. I don't think it's only for children. There is also going to be a children's specific area by Peace at Home Child Care. So there will be a space, if for example, if the parents want to attend the 1 o'clock herbalism class, the children can go to the children's area, while the parents do that. So really, wanting to, honor and welcome the families. Again, if you can arrive in the 11 o'clock hour for libations and drum call, we would love, to have you. If you have offerings that you want to leave for, our ancestors, especially, again, with honoring and celebrating Juneteenth, it'll be a really, really nice event, and we're excited to have all of you there.
Okay. All right, Erin. Well, look, I will see you on Saturday, and thanks for calling into the show. Okay.
Yes.
All right. All right.
Thank you so much. Appreciate
Okay,
the time. All right, have a good one.
Okay. Thank you. All right. So that's once again Erin Johnson from the Detroit Black Farmer Land Fund. Visit their website, DetroitBlackFarmer.com. DetroitBlackFarmer.com. That event is taking place Saturday, June 17th, 2023, 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and it's taking place at the on Oakland Avenue. The address is 9354 Oakland Avenue. 9354 Oakland Avenue at the Oakland Avenue Urban Farm. Okay. Now also on Friday, June 16th, 2023, I will be out in Mount Clemens, Michigan, and I'm speaking at the Juneteenth weekend celebration, a community family reunion, Friday, June 16th, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Sister Malia Howard is one of the organizers. This is taking place at Carnes Community Center, CAIRNS, Carnes Community Center, 58 Orchard Street, Mount Clemens. This is Friday, June 16, 2023, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. I will be speaking there. I'll have a vendor booth as well. They have 3 days of events. And then also on that Monday, I'll be out in Inkster. We'll have all this information at our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. All right, this is the African History Network show. I'm Michael Imhotep. We'll be back in a few minutes. When we'll come back, we'll talk more about the federal indictment of Donald Trump. We'll look more at the actual indictment. Okay, back from break in 4 minutes. Stand by. All right, my 15 lecture DVD bundles on sale right now, $75. That is African History Awakens the African Mind from Mental Death. So it includes 15 of my lectures. We have that in digital download format. Okay, stand by. Back from break in 3 minutes. Back from break in 3 minutes. Stand by. Back from break in 2 minutes. All right, give us a thumbs up, give us a heart, give us a like on this broadcast. Bathroom break in 1 minute.
AM is what you need.
Brother Michael Imhotep. On the African History Network show, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. They may have the areas of expertise, but some people need to learn how to stay in their own lane. If you don't know, just say you don't know. We have a lot to talk about, so we're going to jump right into this.
Catch it all right here on 910 AM Superstation.
The African History Network show. All right. Be sure to visit our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. My 15 lecture bundle that deals with African history awakens the African mind from mental death. My 15, hold on, let me see. My 15 lecture bundle is on sale right now. It's a $150 value. It's on sale for $75. We have the lectures in digital download format. Okay, so visit our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. When you scroll down the screen, you'll see it. These are 15 of my lectures dealing with all different topics, everything from the film Black Panther to dealing with African history, ancient Kemet, etc. Okay, so we have it on sale right now, and we also have it in. It's also in a DVD format as well. Okay, and we have a new class of ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade, starting up on Saturday, June 18th, Sunday, June 18th, also 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So register for that right now. The class is on sale, $80, regularly $130. And we do thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. All right, I want to go back to, let's go back to the federal indictment here. Let's look at the New York Times. Quickly, we're going to clip number 4, Doug, which deals with the Sedition Act of 1917. Okay, the Sedition Act of 1917. But if we look at the, we were looking at the PDF of the actual indictment. If we go back to that, just a second here, we'll go to that clip here in just a minute. Let's see here. Okay, actually, let's go to this clip. This clip here deals with the Sedition Act of 1917. This is Ali Belshi from Juneteenth, 2023, MSNBC. Let's go to this clip, please.
The United States entered World War I in 1917. Congress passed a law called the Espionage Act. It aimed to crack down on wartime activities that were deemed dangerous or disloyal to the United States. It prohibited and criminalized obtaining information, pictures, or copying descriptions of anything related to national defense with intent or reason to believe that that information might be used to harm the United States or to aid its adversaries. But within just a year, an amendment extended the Espionage Act to essentially prohibit dissent. And many people found themselves prosecuted under the Espionage Act for simply speaking out against the war or other actions that could be considered disloyal to the United States. Like a socialist named Charles Schenck, who handed out anti-war flyers, or Daniel Goldstein, the producer of a film called The Spirit of 76, who was prosecuted because the government believed that the film undermined the United Kingdom, the U.S. ally in the war, and was therefore considered seditious. Under Woodrow Wilson, thousands more were prosecuted under the Espionage Act for legitimate political speech, like Eugene Debs, a socialist leader who gave a riling speech to a crowd of about 1,200 people. In it, he spoke out against the war, saying, quote, "If war is right, let it be declared by the people, you who have lost your lives to lose."
speech landed Eugene Debs in prison, charged with 10 counts of violating the Espionage and Sedition Acts. The prosecution claimed that his speech was, quote, calculated to promote insubordination and propagate obstruction into the draft. Debs was sentenced to 10 years in prison, and less than 2 years into his sentence, Eugene Debs won the Socialist Party's nomination from the presidency, for the presidency from a federal penitentiary in Georgia. Debs, as convict number 9653, won nearly 4% of the vote in 1920. That 1918 amendment was repealed just 3 years later, and many of those convictions were lifted after Congress acknowledged that the First Amendment was abusing these things, or that these were abuses to the First Amendment. Eugene Debs' sentence was commuted as well. The Espionage Act has been amended a few more times since then, until its latest revision in 1950. The Espionage Act, as it stands today, is meant to nab spies and leakers who shared U.S. secrets, particularly defense secrets, that put America at risk. There is some valid criticism of the Espionage Act. Some constitutional scholars point out one major flaw, that the Espionage Act doesn't really differentiate between government insiders who share sensitive information with foreign powers and those who may share secret information with the press in order to inform the public about government misconduct. And that flaw has been used countless times to prosecute whistleblowers who share information with journalists. In 1973, ex-Rand Corporation defense analyst Daniel Ellsberg was prosecuted for leaking thousands of documents, known as the Pentagon Papers, to the New York Times and the Washington Post. Those documents detailed the failings of the U.S. Army in the Vietnam War. Ellsberg was charged under the Espionage Act, but the case against him was ultimately dropped. There was Reality Winner, the former Air Force linguist and NSA intelligence contractor who leaked a classified report on Russia's interference in the 2016 election. Under Trump in 2018, Winner was sentenced to more than 5 years in prison for a single count of transmitting national security information. There are some violations of the Espionage Act that are considered more serious than a leak or a whistleblower. Perhaps the most serious or the most notorious espionage case was that of Julius and Ethel Rosenberg, a couple from New York who were executed in the electric chair under the Espionage Act for a conspiracy to share nuclear intelligence secrets with the Soviet Union back in 1953. Notably, the prosecutor who advocated for their execution was Roy Cohn, who went on to become a mentor to the young Donald J. Trump. Which brings us to the latest American to face charges in violation of the Espionage Act, the former president, Donald J. Trump. The charges against Trump fall under Section 793 of the Espionage Act, which prohibits the gathering, transmitting, or losing of defense information and is punishable by up to 10 years in prison. According to the indictment, the documents found in Donald Trump's storage rooms, a ballroom, and a bathroom included information on American nuclear programs, potential vulnerabilities of the United States and its allies to military attack, and plans for possible retaliation in response to a foreign attack. Donald Trump is not a whistleblower or a journalist or a foreign agent. He didn't leak a military report to the press for the betterment of the nation, nor did he hand out anti-war flyers. He is the former president of the United States, accused of stowing away boxes and boxes of some of the most sensitive U.S. national security secrets.
All right, so that was from Ali Velsh's show. So the Roy Cohn, who's that crooked attorney that Donald Trump hired, and he asked, where's my Roy Cohn? And he said, Roy Cohn never took notes. Why are you taking notes? Read this article from Esquire. Roy Cohn condemned the Rosenbergs as Soviet spies. Their granddaughter just made a film about him. Okay, so he was the one that called for the death penalty for the Rosenbergs under the Espionage Act of 1917. And this is the same act that Donald Trump is charged with 31 counts of violating. Thanks for listening to the African History Network show right here on 910 AM Superstation WFDF. Right now, it's correct wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you next week. Peace. All right, stand by. Let's see here. Okay, so Andre, I don't know what the why you're complaining. Andre probably isn't even black. Joe Biden had white papers in his garage. No more said that. Okay. Once again, now Andre doesn't study politics. Joe Biden's attorneys contacted the National Archives, alerted them that they found classified documents, and they turned over the classified documents. They didn't have to be subpoenaed. They didn't obstruct justice. The National Archives didn't even know the documents were missing. They turned them over, and then they searched other locations, found them. They turned over all the documents. Now, notice how Andre didn't say anything about Mike Pence and his classified documents that were found. Mike Pence did the same thing. Once they were found at Joe Biden's house, Mike Pence had his attorneys search for classified documents. They found them. They contacted the National Archives. They turned them over. They didn't delay. They didn't ignore subpoenas. They didn't obstruct justice, any of this. So what you need to do, Andre Wooding, is before you come here and post and don't know what the hell you're talking about, you need to learn how to stay in your own lane and do some research before you come here with this nonsense. This is a different type of show. We don't do that here. We deal with facts and evidence. Proper documentation ends all conversation. If you had actually read the indictment, and we've been going through the indictment here, okay? So I don't know where you've been, Dre. Okay, don't forget about Dre. I don't know what where you've been. We've been going through the actual indictment. Have you read it? Because if you read the indictment, okay, United States of America versus Donald Trump and Waltine Nauta, if you actually read this indictment, you wouldn't be coming here with this nonsense. All right. At 12 p.m. on January 20th, 2021, Trump ceased to be president. As he departed the White House, Trump called scores of boxes, many of which contained classified documents, to be transported to the Mar-a-Lago Club in Palm Beach, Florida, where he maintained his residence. Trump was not authorized to possess or retain those classified documents, as we explained, because we actually looked at the Presidential Records Act of 1978. Okay, so these people commenting haven't read any of this. Okay, so the first thing you need to do is actually go do some research, actually read the indictment. Okay, we already went through the Presidential Records Act. Okay, and for Pat Cordell, I'm neither Democrat nor Republican, but I sure as hell ain't stupid. See, I actually do research before I come on the air and speak. I'm not just a historian, I'm a political commentator. I'm neither Democrat nor Republican, but what I do is I actually do research. I've actually read the indictment. So before you come here with simple Simon ass nonsense, you should go read this information. Okay? You probably get most of your information from Fox News, so you don't read. Read the Presidential Records Act of 1978. This is at archives.gov, U.S. National Archives. As we already stated, the Presidential Records Act tells you that it establishes that presidential records automatically transfer into the legal custody of the archivist as soon as the president leaves the office, which means Donald Trump has no authority to maintain those presidential records, classified documents, any of that. All that is supposed to be turned over to the U.S. National Archives when his tenure ends as president. So this has nothing to do about Democrat or Republican. This has to do with the rule of law. I thought you people were for law and order. I thought you all for law and order. Isn't that what Republicans say when African Americans get assaulted by police and get shot 50 times by police? Oh, you should have just complied. Why didn't Donald Trump comply when the National Archives asked for the records back? Was Donald Trump Jr. saying, I want my daddy's records? I want my daddy's records? Why didn't Donald Trump just comply? That's the question you should ask yourself. This isn't about Democrat or Republican. If President Barack Obama did the same thing, I would say the same thing. Follow the evidence. If Bill Clinton did the same thing, follow the law. So this has nothing to do with Democrat or Republican. He just got caught and you all don't like it. That's all. Deal with it. Okay, let's go back to the indictment that these trolls have not read. Trump was not authorized to possess or retain those classified documents. Now, let's continue. All right. Hold on. Let's flip over to this here. Okay. And we looked at the Espionage Act also. All right. Now, the Mar-a-Lago Club was an active social club which between 2021, and I'm going to pull this up here. Okay, the Mar-a-Lago Club was an active social club which between January 2021 and August 2022 hosted events for tens of thousands of members and guests, After Trump's presidency, the Mar-a-Lago Club was not authorized. That means it's illegal. You can't do it. It was not an authorized location for the storage, possession, review, display, or discussion of classified documents. Okay? I know all these Trump supporters find this hard to believe, but also Secret Service, they don't protect documents, they protect people. So Secret Service wasn't protecting the documents. That's not their job. The Mar-a-Lago Club was not an authorized location for the storage, possession, review, display, or discussion of classified documents. Nevertheless, Donald Trump stored his boxes containing classified documents he was not supposed to have in various locations at the Mar-a-Lago Club, including in a ballroom, a bathroom. Was he reading this stuff while he was sitting on the toilet? I mean, I'm just asking. In a ballroom, a bathroom, and shower. Why was he taking a shower reading classified documents? They were in a shower, they were in office space, they were in his bedroom and storage room. They were all over Mar-a-Lago. On 2 occasions, not the Babyface song, okay? On 2 occasions, white people, okay, so Kenneth Babyface Edmonds is one of the greatest songwriters in history. He was with a group called The Deal, and then, he's solo, and then Babyface and L.A. Reid, they're like a really famous, y'all ever heard of Tony Braxton? Okay, so they're like a really famous African-American songwriting duo, and they're behind Tony Braxton and numerous other artists that you probably haven't heard of either. But anyway, okay. So on 2 occasions in 2021, Donald Trump showed classified documents to others as follows. Let's look at this. This is what this fool did, allegedly. Okay. Now he said he had a right to do it. So he probably did it because Donald Trump tells you like what he's going to do before he does it. Okay. All right. So we got another troll here. Andre's still here trolling. And look at Joe Biden's son. He's a crook. Andre, you want to talk about crooks? Dre, do you want to talk about Jared Kushner, who actually worked in the White House as senior advisor to Donald Trump, getting $2 billion from Saudi Arabia after he left the White House? Now, Hunter Biden may be a crook, maybe not. Hunter Biden never worked in the White House. Jared Kushner did. Do you want to talk about the $2 billion he got, or do you want to go troll somewhere else? This ain't, I'm the wrong one to come at with this nonsense. See, I'm actually a political commentator. I'll wear your ass out all day, every day. So when you want to talk about Jared Kushner getting $2 billion from Saudi Arabia, and Jared Kushner used to work in the White House, okay? Because Hunter Biden never worked in the White House. When you want to have that conversation, come on back. All right. Let's see here. Okay, let's continue. So now, see, Dre, see, this is what happens. See, after you kick their ass, now they want to go to the next subject. Who told Joe Biden to give Ukraine trillions of dollars? U.S. Congress. Because Congress is a co-equal branch of government, and the bills passed Congress, and Biden signed it into law. See, first thing you should do, go read the U.S. Constitution. Okay? See, I love it. See, I love it when these trolls come in. See, I didn't actually syndicated radio, then internet radio, terrestrial radio. I love it when these trolls come because they don't know what they're talking about. That was U.S. Congress that authorized that, you dumbass. Anything else you want to say, Dre? See, I'll show you comments. Come on with it. Like Captain America said in Avengers Endgame, I can do this all day. Come on with it. So obviously, somebody gets all that news from Fox News or something like that, don't understand. U.S. Congress authorized those bill packages to Ukraine. It hasn't been $1 trillion either. Not for the war. It hasn't been $1 trillion. And also, Dre, the U.S. federal budget is like between $6 to $7 trillion a year. But that passed through Congress. So you whoever gets your information from, you need to go back and ask them, why didn't they tell you that? All right, let's continue. All right. Now, we're going to go back to this book. I find it interesting. None of these trolls are saying what page of the federal indictment they want to talk about. Notice that. Look at their comments. None of these trolls are saying, hey, let's talk about this page. Let's talk about page 10 in the federal indictment. Let's talk about page 16 in the federal indictment. You know why? Because ain't none of them read it. Okay, let's continue here. All right, now in July 2021, and I'm on page, this is page 2 of the federal indictment. We looked at the introduction. We looked at some other articles. In July 2021, at Trump National Golf Club in Bedminster, New Jersey, during an audio recorded meeting with a writer, a publisher, and 2 members of his staff, none of whom possessed a security clearance. None of these people who were there possessed a security clearance. Donald Trump showed and described a plan of attack that Trump said was prepared for him by the Department of Defense and a senior military official. Trump told the individuals that the plan was highly confidential and secret. Highly confidential and secret. None of these people that he was talking to had a security clearance, none of whom possessed a security clearance. Donald Trump trolls who are trolling right now, please explain this to me. Why did he do that? The Presidential Records Act in 1978 doesn't give him the authority to do this. We just cited the Presidential Records Act because, see, unlike you, I actually do research. All those documents he's supposed to give to the National Archives when his tenure ends as president. He's showing classified documents to people that don't have a security clearance. Why is he doing that? The trolls commenting, Donald Trump supporters, please tell me, why is he doing that? Because y'all trolling. That's why. Pat Cordell said, why do you keep calling people trolls? Because that's what people are that come here with this nonsense. They're trolls. Look up the term TROLLS. I get it. You're a Trump hater. We're dealing with facts and evidence here, Pete. This don't have to do with like or dislike. If President Barack Obama did the same thing, I'd say the same thing. I'm dealing with facts and evidence and the rule of law. What are you talking about? This has nothing to do with Democrat or Republican. If Bill Clinton did this, same thing. Jimmy Carter did this, same thing. Barack Obama did this, same thing. You're the ones that keep changing what you say based upon who it is. Because if this was Barack Obama, you couldn't find one of these Republicans out here who are making excuses for Donald Trump who would make the same excuses for Barack Obama. So y'all keep trolling. I'm going to keep exposing you. Like Captain America said, I can do this all day. All right, let's continue. None of whom possessed a security clearance. Now, Donald Trump showed and described a plan of attack that Trump said was prepared for him by the Department of Defense and a senior military official. Okay. This was during an audio recorded meeting with a writer, a publisher, and 2 members of Donald Trump's staff. Now, Trump told the individuals that the plan was highly confidential and secret. Trump also said, as president, I could have declassified it, and now I can't, but this is still a secret, end quote. Oh, so you realize that it's still classified. And you're showing it to people that don't have a security clearance. So that goes to state of mind and consciousness of guilt. As president, I could have declassified it. They have him recorded saying this. As president, I could have declassified it. Now I can't, but this is still a secret. This is still a secret. Now, in another instance, so that was July 2021. Now, in another instance, in August or September 2021 at the Bedminster Club, Trump showed a representative of his political action committee who did not possess a security clearance. He showed this person a classified map related to a military operation and told the representative that he should not be showing it to the representative and that the representative should not get too close. So you knew you weren't supposed to show it to him. And this is a classified map. You're not even supposed to have it. Now, on March 30th, 2022, the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, opened a criminal investigation into the unlawful retention of classified documents at the Mar-a-Lago Club. A federal grand jury investigation began next month. So the federal grand jury investigation began in April of 2022. The FBI launches an investigation, a criminal investigation into the unlawful retention of classified documents at the Mar-a-Lago Club where they're not supposed to be. Secret Service does not protect documents, they protect people. They're all over Mar-a-Lago. They're in the bathroom, they're in the shower, they're in his bedroom, they're in his desk. That's March 30th, 2022. The FBI opens a criminal investigation into the unlawful retention of classified documents at Mar-a-Lago. And then the next month, April of 2022, a federal grand jury investigation begins. Now, the grand jury issued a subpoena requiring Donald Trump to turn over all documents with classified markings. Okay? A grand jury issued a subpoena requiring Donald Trump to turn over all documents with classified markings. Donald Trump endeavored to obstruct the FBI and grand jury investigations and conceal his continued retention of classified documents by, among other things, A, suggesting that his attorneys falsely represent to the FBI and grand jury that Trump did not have documents called for by the grand jury subpoena. B, he directed defendant Walt Nauta, his valet, to move boxes of documents to conceal them from Trump's attorney, the FBI, and the grand jury. That would be called obstruction of justice. Okay, that would be called obstruction of justice. C, he suggested that his attorney hide or destroy documents called for by the grand jury subpoena. Okay, that's conspiracy. D, he provided to the FBI and grand jury just some of the documents called for by the grand jury subpoena while claiming that he was cooperating fully, which is a lie. E, he caused a certification to be submitted to the FBI and grand jury, falsely representing that all documents called for by the grand jury subpoena had been produced, while knowing that in fact not such all documents had been produced. Okay, so that's making false statements. And the attorney who signed off on that, she had to quit. She had to go get an attorney. See, MAGA stands for Make Attorneys Get Attorneys. Okay, so let me flip back. I want to see what the trolls are saying. Okay. All right. Now, for y'all trolls on here talking, how many of y'all have actually read the indictment? Because which page you want to go to in the indictment? Which page you want to talk about? I'm just waiting for y'all. Let me come on with it. So let's look at this here. As a result of Trump's retention of classified documents after his presidency and refusal to return them, hundreds of classified documents were not recovered by the United States government until 2022 as follows. On January 17th, 2022, nearly 1 year after Donald Trump left office, and after months of demands by the National Archives and Records Administration, NARA, the National Archives and Records Administration, for Trump to provide all missing presidential records, Trump provided only 15 boxes, which contained 197 documents with classification markings. But this wasn't all of them. Let's just look at this here. On January 17th, 2022, nearly 1 year after Trump left office, and after months of demands by the National Archives and Records Administration for Trump to provide all missing presidential records, Donald Trump provided only 15 boxes, which contained 197 documents with classified markings. Then on June 3rd, 2022, in response to a grand jury subpoena demanding the production of all of the documents with classification markings, Trump's attorney provided to the FBI 38 more documents with classification markings. Okay. Then, so that's June 3rd. Now you got 197 that were turned over to the National Archives on June 17th. Then you got 38 turned over on June 3rd. Okay. So you at like about 235. Then on August 8th pursuant to a court-authorized search warrant, the FBI recovered, this wasn't a raid, this was a court-authorized search warrant signed off on by a federal judge. They didn't come in tearing up the house and tearing up Mar-a-Lago and everything like this. They had every right to search for these. Now, he already turned over about 235. They found another 102 there. Over 300 classified documents at Mar-a-Lago on August 8th, 2022, pursuant to a court-authorized search warrant. The FBI recovered from Trump's office and a storage room at the Mar-a-Lago club 102 more documents with classification markings. That's in addition to the 235 they already recovered. So now you had about 337 classified documents. And you got all these trolls and Donald Trump supporters trying to excuse this? Are you serious? Now, some people may ask the question, well, what about Hillary Clinton's emails? What about Hillary Clinton's emails? The emails. Russia, if you're listening, I hope you can find Hillary Clinton's 30,000 emails. Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. Let's look at that. So what a lot of people don't know is that investigation was concluded under the Trump administration, and it was Attorney General William Barr, okay, when he was Attorney General, where it was concluded, and basically they found nothing. Let's look at this article here, and I'm going to pull this up. Let's look at this article from Politico.com. This deals with, now, when the findings came out after Trump was in office, there was, you would expect like breaking news and huge coverage of this, all this stuff. Okay, now it was just a little New York Times, after all the BS that New York Times wrote about this, New York Times had a little article dealing with this. There's a little information on the news. Okay, but let's look at this right here, Politico.com. All my Trump friends, all the black conservatives, all this, you go read this here. Now, this is from October 18th, 2019. Trump is already in office, grifting. Okay, Trump is already in office, committing crimes. October 18th, 2019. State Department finds no systemic classified violation in Hillary Clinton private server emails. Okay, now this is under the Trump administration that they came to this conclusion. A State Department investigation into former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton's private email account found no widespread effort by her aides or other staffers to mishandle classified information. Found no widespread effort by her aides or other staffers to mishandle classified information. The 3-year-long investigation by the state's Bureau of Diplomatic Security concluded that 38 individuals committed a total of 91 security violations involving emails sent to or from Clinton's private server. However, a report on the probe finalized last month, so that would have been September of 2019, seemed to dismiss the notion that the system was routinely used to discuss matters that diplomats or Hillary Clinton aides knew required handling through secure channels. Quote, while there were some instances of classified information being inappropriately introduced into an unclassified system in furtherance of expedience, okay, and further to expedite matters, by and large, the individuals interviewed were aware of security policies and did their best to implement them in their operations, end quote, the report said. This is under the Trump administration. This is under William Barr as Attorney General. Quote, instances of classified information being deliberately transmitted via unclassified email were the rare exception and resulted in adjudicated security violations. There was no pervasive evidence of systemic, deliberate mishandling of classified information, end quote. An FBI investigation into Clinton's email use resulted in no charges, although FBI Director James Comey alleged at an unusual news conference in July 2016 that Hillary Clinton and her staff were, quote, extremely careless in their handling of very sensitive, highly classified information, end quote. Now, Hillary Clinton allies have bitterly complained about then FBI Director James Comey's statement as a breach of Justice Department protocol. A Justice Department Inspector General backed up that view that it was a breach of Justice Department protocol for what FBI Director James Comey did. The State Department's internal security review prompted concern among some former Clinton aides and current state officials that it could amount to an effort to alleviate pressure from Clinton critics who were disappointed that no one was prosecuted over the emails. Some also said it could be an attempt to strip the security clearances of former Clinton aides and allies. Senator Chuck Grassley of Iowa, who's older than Joe Biden and was just reelected to a six-year term in the Senate, and who kissed Donald Trump's ass, by the way. Senator Chuck Grassley is among those who have pressed the State Department to investigate whether any aspect of the private server fiasco should result in discipline for state employees or revocation of security clearances. Okay, so they want that investigated. They don't want Donald Trump investigated. Grassley's office released the Bureau of Diplomatic Security's report public on Friday. A Grassley spokesman had no comment on state's findings. A spokesman for Hillary Clinton did not respond to a request for comment, but former Clinton aide Philippe Reines said it is time for Grassley to let it go, to let the issue go. Okay, get over it, Chuck. Get over it. Okay. Give it up, turn it loose. Like En Vogue said, give it up, turn it loose. Read the rest of this article. Politico.com, State Department finds no systemic classified violation in Hillary Clinton private server emails. Because I've heard some of these Republicans bring this up. They don't like citing sources. They don't like citing sources to document this stuff. Okay. You know, so they say, what about Hillary Clinton's emails? Okay, so you want to talk about what the final report said that came out from the Trump administration? You want to deal with that? You want to read? I don't think any of these people defending Trump have actually read the federal indictment. Definitely none of these trolls here commenting have read it. That's why none of them can cite that. None of them want to talk about anything from the indictment. What page you want to talk about? You know, so I'm just asking, like, what page you want to talk about? Okay. All right, let's continue. So then you got Pat still here. Pat don't want to talk about the indictment. Just curious, you say you're neither Republican or Democrat. Do you think Biden winning the election was 100% legit, or do you think there was some BS? Well, what did Chris Krebs say, who worked in the Trump administration, and he handled he was over securing the administration. He said that it was the most secure election basically in history. Not only that, did you know that Donald Trump hired 2 firms to search for widespread voter fraud and they found nothing? So yes, absolutely. Now, the question I have for you, Pat, is for the Republicans who say, oh, the election was stolen, okay, like Kerry Lake out of Arizona, the election was stolen. Things like that. Explain to me, how could Republicans win seats in the House of Representatives on the same ballot that Donald Trump is on, but they didn't challenge the election results in the House of Representatives that Republicans won seats in. And on the same ballot, they're saying that there was cheating and Joe Biden stole votes, but they didn't challenge any of the elections that Republicans won. Republicans picked up seats in the House of Representatives in the 2020 election. Republicans are on the same ballot with Joe Biden and Donald Trump. So how is it that if there were any fraudulent votes, all the fraudulent votes were for Joe Biden? None of them were for any Republicans. None of the Republicans who won election in the House of Representatives, no votes for them were fraudulent. They're on the same ballot as Joe Biden. They're on the same ballot as Donald Trump. So how is it that if there were fraudulent votes, they were only for Joe Biden and none for the Republicans who won seats in the House of Representatives? Explain that to me. I'll wait. Anybody want to explain that? Because none of the Republicans have explained that. They picked up seats in the House of Representatives. Notice they didn't challenge any of the elections that Republicans won. This is a different type of show right here. You dealing with somebody that actually researches this. So now people want to change the subject. See, they don't want to deal with the indictment because I got it right here. So now they want to change the subject. Okay. So you have people asking, well, what has Joe Biden done for African Americans? Okay. We've dealt with that here numerous times here on the show. Maybe you don't watch. We dealt with that numerous times here on the show. For the sake of time, go read this document right here. It's at whitehouse.gov. It's 38 pages. It breaks down how the policies of the Biden-Harris administration are benefiting African Americans. A lot of these policies, the Congressional Black Caucus put together. I find it interesting. Nobody talks about the $5.8 billion in that HBCUs got in 2021. They don't talk about things how the executive order on student loan forgiveness will move 500,000 African American families from a negative net worth to a positive net worth. Republicans are against that, by the way. Pull this up here. Let's see here. This one right here. So it was last updated February 27th, 2023. It goes through and deals with the American Rescue Plan. It deals with the infrastructure bill. It goes through and deals with the Inflation Reduction Act, Emmett Till anti-lynching bill. It deals with student loan forgiveness. It deals with funding for HBCUs. Deals with executive orders on policing. It goes through, breaks down category by category. This is at whitehouse.gov. Fact sheet: the Biden-Harris administration advances equity and opportunity for Black Americans and communities across the country. It deals with fighting against digital redlining. It deals with the loophole when it comes to heirs property, when it comes to having our land stolen, which is one of the ways that our land was stolen, farmland was stolen. It deals with Executive Order 13985, which was signed. Executive Order 13985 was one of the 10 executive orders that President Biden signed on his first day in office. And that dealt with fighting against discrimination in federal agencies. So, for instance, if we look at this right here, Executive Order 13985. So, if we look at this one here from April 14th, 2022, fact sheet: Biden-Harris administration releases equity action plans to advance equity and racial justice to the federal government, across the federal government. So this one deals with, let's see, let's go to this one here. Now, compare these policies to what Republicans, how Republicans are voting, and what Republicans and the policies Republicans have. Republicans really don't have policies that are beneficial for African Americans, generally speaking. They don't acknowledge systemic racism exists. So if you don't acknowledge it exists, then how can you fight against it? That's like Senator Tim Scott. Okay, he doesn't think systemic racism exists. You can't find any Black conservatives who think systemic racism exists. Because then you ask them, okay, so what policies do you have to address systemic racism? They don't have any. And the white Republicans don't either. So that's why they want to make it about individual success. Pull yourself up by your own bootstraps. I went from cotton to Congress in one generation. You can do it too. They don't want to acknowledge the maldistribution of wealth, power, and resources into the hands of Europeans and how laws were used to do this. This is one of the reasons why they want to attack critical race theory, because what critical race theory does, it developed in the late 1960s, and it was analyzing the laws of this country, and it was analyzing, okay, so the modern day civil rights movement, even though it accomplished federal legislation, Civil Rights Act of 1964, Voting Rights Act of 1965, Affirmative Action, September 1965, Executive Order 11246, Fair Housing Act of 1968, even though it accomplished this, why weren't African Americans able to continue to make the gains that were needed and economic gains, things like this? So critical race theory examines the laws and the racial disparities in this country and racism and things like this. The critical race theory is a legal analysis. So you start analyzing that, they say, oh, they're getting too close. We got to shut this down. Read this right here, April 14th, 2022. This is from whitehouse.gov, official website of the White House. Fact sheet: Biden-Harris administration releases agency equity action plans to advance equity and racial justice across the federal government. Now, this deals with Executive Order 13985, which is one of the 10 executive orders that President Biden signed on his first day in office, January 20th, 2021. On his first day in office, President Biden signed Executive Order 13985, advancing racial equity and support for underserved communities through the federal government. The historic executive order directed the whole of the federal government to advance an ambitious equity and racial justice agenda. Now, Republicans are totally against equity and racial justice. They're told this is why they attack diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. This is why they don't acknowledge systemic racism exists, because as long as you don't acknowledge systemic racism exists, then you don't have to have policies that address systemic racism. Okay, you can just act like, doesn't exist. And racism is a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon race, which comes out of the ideology of European white supremacy. Racism occurs when one race of people control the majority of the wealth, power, resources, benefits, privileges, land, access to education, access to opportunity, healthcare, jobs, etc., media. And they use that to marginalize, subordinate, and do harm to another race of people. Racism is a power structure. It's not a feeling. It's not calling somebody racial slurs or things like this. That's bigotry. Racism is a power structure. So when you study the laws and policies of this country, the Homestead Act of 1862, which distributed 270 million acres of land for 124 years from 1862 to 1968. And they now distribute land into the hands of Europeans. The Southern Homestead Act of 1866 that gave away about 45 million acres of land. The Dawes Allotment Act of 1887 that distributed 138 million acres of land, and 2/3 of that was supposed to go to the majority of that land was supposed to go to African Americans and Black Indians, and white people ended up getting 2/3 of that land. And then so you have Senator Tim Scott, right, running for president. Looks like Mushmouth from Fat Albert. Senator Tim Scott doesn't think systemic racism exists. And most of these Republicans, none of them think systemic racism exists. But you're dealing with a racial wealth gap that's 10-1. Okay, when you look at median household wealth, white households have 10 times more wealth than African American households. It's not because white people work 10 times harder than African Americans. That's not why that is. That's because of the history of this country and because of laws that were implemented that maldistributed wealth, power, and resources. The GI Bill of 1944, and the U.S. invested $67 billion from 1944 to about 1970 in the GI Bill, and the way that they distributed the resources. The GI Bill gave low interest loans to go to college, to start businesses, and to buy homes to veterans starting in World War II. And African-American veterans, when we tried to take advantage of the same benefits that we earned and our taxpayer dollars paid for, we're largely discriminated against this. And the GI Bill changed who got to go to college. It changed the landscape of who got to go to college. It allowed white people to buy homes out in the suburbs, the newly built suburbs. And the U.S. Interstate Highway Acts of 1952 and 56 are driving 41,000 miles of interstate highways all across this country, wiping out African-American homes, okay? Mark Robinson is a clown, lieutenant governor of North Carolina. He's a clown, straight up clown. All right, so like for instance, if you look at this, if you look at this article here that breaks all this down and deals with its history, it's called Bisected and Divided. Okay. And this deals with the history of interstate highways and how the interstate highways wiped out a lot of African-American businesses and homes all across the country. Bulldozed and bisected. Bulldozed and bisected. This one right here. This is a excellent analysis from NBCnews.com, but I have all different sources, okay, for this. But this is an excellent analysis. See, for y'all, this is your first time here. I do research. I have thousands of articles. Okay, I'm a historian and a political commentator. This is the African History Network. I'm Michael Imhotep. I created this platform. I have thousands of articles, okay, in my archives because I actually do research. Now, if we look at this article here, bulldozed and bisected, NBC News, okay, bulldozed and bisected, highway construction built a legacy of inequality. Highway construction built a legacy of inequality. And let's see, will there, okay, so one of the things it talks about here is New Orleans, a bustling community in New Orleans that Interstate 10 cut through in the 1960s. The highways really destroyed that. Okay, during the largest public works program ever attempted in the United States, Black and Latino communities and cities across the country met the blade of the bulldozer and the crush of the wrecking ball. The blade of the bulldozer and the crush of the wrecking ball, making room for ribbons of new highway, whether through blindness or design. The mid-century American Interstate Highway Program demolished homes and bisected communities driven by the promise of prosperity, faster jobs, and faster commutes and jobs. Now, in Buffalo, New York, at the Tops Food Market, the grocery store where the white supremacists shot and killed those people, that community was a victim of the expressways running through the community, separating the community, dividing it. When you go research that, okay. Now back to this article. What has changed decades after the Federal Highway Act of 1956 brought 41,000 miles of interstates to the country is the recognition of the harm that was done to communities left in the shade of these now aging roadways. From 1957 to 1977, the program displaced over 475,000 households and 1 million people, according to the U.S. Department of Transportation. They ran through I-375, ran right through Black Bottom, right here in Detroit, where I live, because I'm in the downtown Detroit area. Ran right through Black Bottom, wiping out homes that African Americans own. Okay, wiping out businesses. There's about 300 businesses in that area that wiped out. And then there was an adjacent area called Paradise Valley, which was the entertainment district, where we own nightclubs and businesses. That got wiped out by I-75 freeway. Now, as many of these hulking structures reach obsolescence, the federal government and many states and cities are belatedly recognizing the harm they caused and are working with communities to design alternatives that repair the damage. But in many cases, those plans are reopening old wounds and leading to protracted debates that politicians and engineers are struggling to solve. Of more than 50 interstate highways across the country nearing the end of their lifespan, NBC News examined 3 urban neighborhoods that show the range of proposals underway to redress the harms caused by the construction of interstates. Okay, read the rest of this. They talk about now this is something. The $1.2 trillion infrastructure bill is going to start addressing these harms that were inflicted. There's over 30,000 construction projects that have already started this year because of that infrastructure bill all across the country. All right, read the rest of this article. Okay, now this is called Bulldozed and Bisected Highway Construction Built a Legacy of Inequality. Okay, but now you have a lot of white Republicans don't want to acknowledge the harm that was done, and it was systemic to African Americans. Or they'll say, oh, that was a long time ago. That has nothing to do with today. It is directly related to today. Okay? Because it wiped out a lot of our businesses and homes that were generating jobs for African Americans, that were creating stability for our communities. It wiped a lot of that out. And then you have white flight from the inner city. And then they took the infrastructure of the inner city. They took the factories, the jobs, the corporations, moved this out to the suburbs. And then because of redlining, which was created by the federal government in 1937, coming from the Homeowners Loan Corporation, which was created in 1933, when we tried to get loans to buy homes out in the newly built suburbs, we're discriminated against and can't get loans, can't buy those homes, can't accumulate wealth through the appreciation in the home value. So then we're locked in the inner city. And then you drive the expressways through our communities, wiping out homes and businesses that we owned as well. So we're being discriminated and trying to move out to the suburbs, take advantage of the GI Bill that we earned, okay? Being discriminated by banks, okay? And then we are having homes and businesses that we own in the inner city, having that wiped out also. Now, this article here from history.com, this deals with how when Black GIs came home from World War II, okay, how we were discriminated against and trying to take advantage of the GI Bill. But white veterans were able to take advantage of it, start businesses, go to college, buy homes that accumulate in wealth so that they have an asset to pass on to their children, to the next generation. This one here deals with, name of this article, how the GI Bill's promise was denied to 1 million Black World War II veterans. How the GI Bill's promise, let's pull this one up. How the GI Bill's promise was denied to 1 million Black World War II veterans. The sweeping bill promised prosperity to veterans. So why didn't Black Americans benefit? Well, it's because of racism. Racism is a system of advantage and privilege distributed based upon race, which comes out of the ideology of European white supremacy. When Eugene Burnett saw the neat tract houses of Levittown, New York, he knew he wanted to buy one. It was 1949, and he was ready to settle down in a larger home with his family. The newly established Long Island suburb seemed like the perfect place to begin their post-war life, one that he hoped would be improved with the help of the GI Bill, a piece of sweeping legislation aimed at helping World War II veterans like Eugene Burnett prosper after World War II. But when Eugene Burnett spoke with a salesman about buying the house using a GI Bill guaranteed mortgage, the door to suburban life in Levittown slammed firmly in Eugene Burnett's face and his wife. The suburb was not open to Black residents. Eugene Burnett's wife, Bernice, recalled it was as though it wasn't real. Look at this house. Can you imagine having this? And then for them to tell me because of the color of my skin that I can't be part of it. Now, this is after Eugene went and fought in the war, okay, risked his life fighting for this country, and he comes back home and can't take full advantage of the benefits that he earned, but also his taxpayer dollars paid for those benefits. The Burnetts weren't the only Black Americans for whom the promise of the GI Bill turned out to be an illusion. Though the bill helped white Americans prosper and accumulate wealth in the post-war years, it did not deliver on that promise for veterans of color. In fact, the wide disparity in the bill's implementation ended up helping drive growing gaps in wealth, education, and civil rights between white and Black Americans. Let me repeat this. The wide disparity in how the GI Bill was implemented ended up helping drive growing gaps in wealth, education, and civil rights between white and Black Americans. While the GI Bill's language did not specifically exclude African American veterans from its benefits, it was structured in a way that ultimately shut doors for the 1.2 million Black veterans who had bravely served their country during World War II in segregated ranks. Now, there was a fear of Black advancement. When lawmakers began drafting the GI Bill in 1944, some Southern Democrats feared that returning Black veterans would use public sympathy for veterans to advocate against Jim Crow laws, because there was a double V campaign in World War II. We said we're going to fight for freedom abroad, and we're going to fight for freedom here at home. It's a double V campaign, double victory. Victory abroad and victory at home, fighting against Jim Crow laws. We wanted all of our rights now. We wanted equal rights. We fought for this country We wanted all of our rights today, not 100 years from now. It's the same thing that Black World War I veterans wanted when they came back home in 1918. To make sure the GI Bill largely benefited white people, the Southern Democrats drew on tactics that they had previously used to ensure that the New Deal helped as few Black people as possible. Now, some people may talk about, oh, Democrats, Republicans, things like this. Now, just keep in mind that 1944 is before the party realignment completes in 1968 with Richard Nixon becoming president. And a lot of those Southern segregationist Democrats left the Democratic Party and went to the Republican Party because the parties flipped because of the party realignment. So a lot of people think that African Americans switched to the Republican Party because of switched to the Democratic Party because of the Civil Rights Act of 64 and the Voting Rights Act of 65. That's not true. By 1960, 2/3 of African Americans had already switched over to the Democratic Party. I've done a 3-hour lecture dealing with the history of the party realignment. The party realignment goes back to 1928, and it's called the Lily White Movement of 1928. The Lily White Movement of 1928, when Republicans ran Herbert Hoover as their presidential candidate against a moderate Democrat named Al Smith from New York. And Republicans implemented a Southern strategy to appeal to Southern segregationist Democrats in 5 former Confederate states to get them to vote for the Republican Herbert Hoover. And Republicans started pushing African Americans out of the Republican Party. They ignored the rise of the Ku Klux Klan, which became powerful again in the 1920s, because by 1915, most of the Klan had lost power because a lot of the early Klan members had died. They were founded December 24th, 1865 in Pulaski, Tennessee on Christmas Eve, okay? Just a few days after the 13th Amendment was ratified and adopted December 18th, 1865, okay? So you have an ignoring of the needs and concerns of African Americans coming from the Republican Party. You had them ignoring the rise of the Ku Klux Klan, okay, who became powerful in the 1920s. And there was a resurgence of the Klan because of the movie The Birth of a Nation that debuted February 8th, 1915. And then in October 1915, you had a man named the Reverend William Joseph Simmons, who starts the second incarnation of the Ku Klux Klan, and he's inspired by the movie The Birth of a Nation. And the movie The Birth of a Nation is based upon a novel by a man named the Reverend Thomas Dixon. And when the movie first comes out, it's called The Klansman for the first 30 days, and the movie rejuvenates the Klan and shows the Klan as the heroes who rise up against a revolt of a group of former Union Negro soldiers during the Reconstruction era, and they put down this rebellion. And it says this is the birth of a nation. Okay, so this movie, which President Woodrow Wilson had a private viewing of at the White House, this rejuvenates the Ku Klux Klan. So they rejuvenated starting in 1915, and then they become very powerful going into the 1920s. And Republicans, who were the party of Lincoln, but have lost power, they start ignoring the needs of African Americans to appeal to Southern segregationist Democrats to get them to vote for Herbert Hoover. So Herbert Hoover wins the 1928 presidential election. He only serves 1 term because he mishandles the October 29th stock market crash, which leads to the Great Depression. He's defeated by President Franklin Roosevelt in the 1932 presidential election. African Americans are leery of Democrats, but they found the Democrats to be more receptive to their conditions, to their needs. And then also we liked Eleanor Roosevelt as well. Now in the 1947, so we start slowly going over to the Democratic Party because we found them not perfect, but we found them to be more receptive to our needs, and Republicans are increasingly ignoring our needs. Then the 1947 presidential election, 47-48 presidential election, Democrats have a pro-civil rights agenda. Strom Thurmond, who's part of the Dixiecrats, who are these Southern segregationist Democrats, he runs as a presidential candidate for the Dixiecrats. He leaves. Strom Thurmond is going to end up leaving the Democratic Party, and he goes to the Republican Party. He lives to be something like 99 years old. He dies as a Republican. A lot of those Southern segregationists, Democrats, because of the party realignment, leave the Democratic Party and go to the Republican Party. And the party realignment completes. So then 1964, you have Senator from Arizona, Barry Goldwater, who runs as a Republican, and he's anti-civil rights. He's running against President Lyndon Baines Johnson. He's anti-civil rights. We ain't voting for him. We're not voting for Barry Goldwater. So the party realignment completes in 1968 with Richard Nixon, who runs on the platform of law and order. Law and order. Richard Nixon runs as a backlash to the civil rights movement, to the Black Power movement, to the rebellions taking place in this country, like the 1967 rebellion in Detroit and 65 and Watts and Newark, New Jersey, things like this. He's running as a backlash to all of that. He's running as a backlash to affirmative action. And Richard Nixon runs on the platform of law and order, which basically means lock up Black people to protect white people. Law and order. Then June 17th, 1971, what does Richard Nixon do? He declares his war on drugs. I know people like to talk about the 94 crime bill. The war on drugs didn't start in the 94. Crime bill wasn't signed until September 13th, 1994. The U.S. prison population had quadrupled from 1970 to 1993. Go to the Bureau of Justice Statistics, bjs.gov, Bureau of Justice Statistics. I've done a whole lecture dealing with the history of the war on drugs. Okay. Richard Nixon declared his war on drugs June 17th, 1971. Last time I checked, he was a Republican. Okay. So if you want to come here with that simple Simon ass nonsense, you need to do some research and know what you're talking about before you try to have a conversation with me. Now, read this here, because I got to get out of here. The show's only 2 hours. We're going way over. Okay. This talks about the racist Mississippi Congressman John Rankin. Okay. Let's see here. During the drafting of the law, the chair of the House Veterans Committee, Mississippi Congressman John Rankin, played hardball and insisted that the program, the GI Bill, be administered by individual states instead of the federal government. He got his way. John Rankin was known for his virulent racism. He defended segregation, opposed interracial marriage, and had even proposed legislation to confine, then deport every person with Japanese heritage during World War II. Okay, so read the rest of this here, because what happened was in the southern states, the way the GI Bill benefits were distributed discriminated against African Americans, so we could not take full advantage of it. And this is one of the main policies in the 20th century that has contributed to the racial wealth gap, which then contributes to other structural inequities. Okay, so read this article here from history.com, official website of the History Channel, how the GI Bill's promise was denied to 1 million Black World War II veterans. Okay, now, when I was talking about policies from the Biden-Harris administration and how they are benefiting African Americans, and that's absolutely correct. And now you compare those policies to how Republicans are voting. Go to congress.gov. Congress.gov is the official website of the U.S. Congress. All the bills that are drafted, the bills that are voted on in Congress, you can go read those bills. You can go read summaries of the bills. But most importantly, you can go see how people vote on the bills, how your 2 U.S. senators and how your member of the House of Representatives vote on those bills. Overwhelmingly, Republicans consistently, overwhelmingly vote against bills that are beneficial to African Americans. Okay. Now, some people may ask, people like Ice Cube, some of these other people, okay, Why don't they write bills only for black people? Why don't they write bills only for black people? Okay, that's illegal. That's based upon Title VI of the 1964 Civil Rights Act, Section 601, non-discrimination and federally assisted programs. Okay, so let's look at this quickly so I can get the hell out of here. Civil Rights Act 1964. Now, what you can do is you can write policies that are that disproportionately benefit African Americans, or disproportionately benefit people who have been harmed by policies. It's illegal. Race-based policies are illegal at the federal level. And also, let's look at U.S. National Archives once again, archives.gov. Okay. Now, if you all like this type of information, if you learned anything from today's show, you can support the African History Network also, because it takes a lot to put this show together, to do the research, help finance the show, finance the sources, the services that we use to broadcast the show. $ the AHN show through Cash App and through PayPal, paypal.me/the AHN show. And visit our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. We have the information right on the homepage of the website. Here, I'm going to post the link right here. I'll post the information here as well. So $15, $20, $25, $50, whatever it is. And then, we have my bundle pack of my lectures also in digital download format. It's at our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. This is we'll post a link here. African History Awakens the African Mind from Mental Death. It's 15 of my lectures in digital download format, and it's on sale $75, regularly $150. Okay, that's at theafricanhistorynetwork.com. But we'll post this link here also. Okay, now, so let's look at this here. This is from the U.S. National Archives, which is archives.gov, Civil Rights Act 1964. Okay. We're going to go to Title 6, Section 6. Known as Title 6. And it's Section 601. Here, sections, scroll down. It's non-discrimination and fairly assisted programs. That's Title 4. Just a second here. Where is it? That's Title 5. Let's see. Duties of commission. Okay, Title 6, non-discrimination and federally assisted programs, Section 601. No person in the United States shall, on the ground of race, color, or national origin, be excluded from participation in, be denied the benefits of, or be subjected to discrimination under any program or activity receiving federal financial assistance. So you can write programs that are designed for minorities. And then, so I hear a lot of people saying they want race specific programs. That's illegal at the federal level. Now, what the question I would ask people is, why aren't we focused on being the majority of the quote unquote minorities getting the benefits when you have minority programs? Why aren't we focused on being the majority of the quote unquote minorities getting the benefits when you have programs that are designed for non-white people, designed for minorities. The reason why we're not focused on being the majority getting those benefits is because for most of us, our minds have not been wired to acquire resources. Our minds have not been wired to take advantage of things like that. They've been wired to complain. And our minds have not been wired to study law, to understand how to use the law to our advantage. This is why you hear me talk about history, economics, law, and politics. We have to master all four of those: history, economics, law, and politics. So you can write policies that disproportionately help African Americans while also helping other people. The student loan forgiveness, the executive order that Joe Biden signed on student loan forgiveness that's being challenged, and the U.S. Supreme Court is going to rule on it because you had Republicans filing lawsuits to block it, okay, because they're against student loan forgiveness. They don't have a problem forgiving PPP loans, personal paycheck protection loans. They don't have a problem forgiving those, okay, because a lot of them got those for their businesses. They don't have a problem forgiving those. But when it comes to forgiving $10,000 to $20,000 in federal student loans, and it's going to disproportionately help African Americans, now all of a sudden they have a problem with it. There's a good article here from ABC News. This deals with Biden's student loan forgiveness. And how it's going to help African Americans. Let's see if we could find that here. That's abcnews.com has that article. Okay, Charles Hamilton Houston. Yeah, Charles Hamilton Houston was a fantastic attorney. It's like Johnny Cochran, but just also like Thurgood Marshall. Let me see here. See if we can find here. So this deals with how this right here, Biden's loan forgiveness plan to heavily impact Black borrowers. Biden's loan forgiveness plan to heavily impact Black borrowers. 20 million people will have their loans completely wiped. April 26, 2022. This is abcnews.com. Okay. President Biden's plans to cancel student loans will particularly impact Black Americans who carry much of the burden of student loan debt. Quote, the burden is especially heavy on Black and Hispanic borrowers who on average have less family wealth to pay for it, President Biden said in a tweet. And the pandemic only made things worse, okay? Nearly 45% of borrowers, or 20 million people, will have their debt fully canceled, according to the White House. For the remaining 55%, a new plan will offer more relaxed terms. Now, if we go here, impact on people of color, several racial advocacy groups have cheered Biden's decision as a step in the right direction. Let's see. more black students take out loans than white students. 71% of African American students take out loans compared to 56% of white students, according to the research organization Education Data Initiative. Black college graduates owe $25,000 more in student loan debt on average than white graduates, the Department of Education found. And 4 years after graduation, 48% of black students owe an average of 12.5% more than they borrowed, according to the Education Data Initiative. Black students make up 72% of Pell Grant recipients, according to the Department of Justice. So if you got a Pell Grant in addition to a loan, you would get up to $20,000 forgiven. When Joe Biden added that to that executive order, that really opened it up, and this will greatly benefit African American borrowers. A typical black borrower will see his or her loan balance cut nearly in half, and more than 1 in 4 black borrowers will have that balance forgiven, according to the White House. Black women in particular carry a disproportionate burden of student debt. They hold nearly 2/3 of the nearly $2 trillion outstanding student debt in the U.S., according to data from the Census Bureau. Okay, now compare this to the programs that Republicans have for student loan forgiveness, because most Republicans are against student loan forgiveness. In 2019, the Brookings Institute found that the median white household wealth is $188,000, which was 7 times that of the typical black household. Okay, 7.8 times, basically 8 times. It's not because white people work 8 times harder than African Americans. That's not why that exists. That's a history of racism in this country and the maldistribution of wealth, power, and resources based upon the laws in this country. Let's see here. Okay, so read this article here from ABC News. Biden's loan forgiveness plan to heavily impact black borrowers. This is from April 26, 2022, abcnews.com. All right. Okay, so let's see here. Okay, we talked about the GI Bill. We talked about all that. We dealt with the indictment as well. Now you have some people that say, "Oh, I paid all my student loans off. I had to work 2 jobs, things like this." How much was a credit hour when you paid off your student loans? When you went to college, how much was a credit hour? It used to be that if you got a Pell Grant, you didn't have to take out student loans. Today, a Pell Grant won't cover all of it. You have to take out a Pell Grant and student loans. So I just find it interesting. It's just like people whose grandfathers benefited from the GI Bill, but the GI Bill didn't exist for people who fought in World War I. So they created the GI Bill for World War II. What about the people fought in World War I? I ain't getting no GI Bill. I had to go fight. I had to come back and I had to come back and work 18 hours a day. I find it interesting when people don't want the next generation to have something better than what they had. It's interesting how people don't want to comment on this right here. How the GI Bill's promise was denied to a million Black World War II veterans. And these veterans not only earn the benefits, but their taxpayer dollars paid for the benefits. I just find that interesting, but I'm not surprised. All right, we have to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, you focus on educating, empowering, and dealing with these Donald Trump supporter trolls, dealing with facts and evidence, because proper documentation ends all conversation. Remember, right now is correct, wrong behavior is not over till we win. Wakanda forever. Register for my online classes. We have my lectures at our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. And follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network. And so let me just show you this comment here. This is Pat Cordell. I grew up poor as hell. It was never given anything. Worked my ass off to have what I have. You know how many African Americans, that's our story? See, this is what happens when you have people who come here who don't study history. You think you don't? Who worked harder than a sharecropper? Who worked harder than enslaved African people for 246 years in the 262 skills, trades, and crafts that we had in this country from 1619 to 1865? We couldn't profit from those skills. And then after the Civil War ends, then you're going to have major labor unions created, like the National Labor Union created in 1866. And white men are creating these labor unions to lock African Americans out of the very jobs that we did for 246 years for free, because now we can compete for wages and our skill set is as good as white people, in many cases better. So I find it interesting when people want to come here with these anecdotes. I was poor and worked hard as hell. You ever study the history of African Americans in this country? You really want to go there talking about being poor? And the racial wealth gap today is still 10 to 1. It's not because white people work 10 times harder than African Americans. So Pat said, I truly understand. My point is, it should be everyone and not just Black folks. A lot of people of different races work hard as hell. You're dealing with a maldistribution of wealth and power based upon the laws. If working hard in this country was the common denominator to being successful, then African Americans would be the most successful people in the history of this country. Also, Pat, you said that you're Italian. That's good, but do you want to have a conversation about how Italians became white? Because it wasn't until after World War II that Italians were classified as white by the U.S. federal government. Because prior to that, Italians oftentimes lived with African Americans, because a lot of Italians, especially those coming from southern Italy with dark skin. I'm dealing with history. I'm a historian. Like I told you, like Captain America said, I could do this all day. We did a show dealing with this. Read this article from the New York Times. Also, it wasn't until after World War II that Greeks, Italians and Irish, the Irish become considered white also. How Italians became white. Then we know it's going to be like in the late, is like 1880s, 1890s. When you study how Columbus Day started being celebrated in the U.S. and then becomes a federal holiday, that goes back to when it was like in right around 1880s or so. you had 1892. You had 11 Italian immigrants who were killed. Okay. And Italy almost went to war with the US government over this. And it's going to be President Benjamin Harrison. It's going to be President Benjamin Harrison who tries to appease the Italians who were here. And they're going to celebrate Columbus Day. They're going to have a celebration for Columbus. That was a big mistake. New York Times, vicious bigotry, reluctant acceptance, and American history. How Italians became white. Read this article from the New York Times by Brent Staples. How the Italians became white. Congress envisioned a white Protestant and culturally homogenous America when it declared in 1790 that only, quote, free white persons who have or shall migrate into the United States were eligible to become naturalized citizens. This is the Naturalization and Immigration Act of 1790. Now, this is 3 years after the drafting of the U.S. Constitution at the Philadelphia Convention in 1787. The calculus of racism underwent swift revision when waves of culturally diverse immigrants from the far corners of Europe changed the face of the country. As the historian Matthew Fry Jacobson shows in his Immigrant History, Whiteness of a Different Color, the surge of newcomers engendered a national panic. The surge of newcomers engendered a national panic and led Americans to adopt a more restrictive, politicized view of how whiteness was to be allocated. Journalists, politicians, social scientists, and immigration officials embraced the habit, separating ostensibly white Europeans into races. Some were designated whiter and more worthy of citizenship than others, while some were ranked as too close to blackness to be socially redeemable. The story of how Italian immigrants went from racialized pariah status in the 19th century, the 1800s, to white Americans in good standing in the 20th century, the 1900s, offers a window onto the alchemy through which race is constructed in the United States and how racial hierarchies can sometimes change. Darker-skinned Southern Italians endured the penalties of blackness on both sides of the Atlantic Ocean. In Italy, Northerners had long held that Southerners, particularly Sicilians, were an uncivilized and racially inferior people, too obviously African to be part of Europe because they were too dark. Racist dogma in Southern Italians found fertile soil. Racist dogma about Southern Italians found fertile soil in the United States. As historian Jennifer Guglielmo writes, the newcomers encountered waves of books, magazines, and newspapers that bombarded Americans with images of Italians as racially suspect. Of Italians as racially suspect. They were sometimes shut out of schools, movie houses, and labor unions, or consigned to church pews set aside for African Americans. They were described in the press, in the newspapers, as swarthy, kinky-haired members of a criminal race and derided in the streets with epithets like Dago or Guinea. Now, Guinea is a term of derision applied to enslaved Africans and their descendants, and more familiarly, racist insults, calling them, different type of racial epithets. Now, Guinea is named after the African country of Guinea. And it was a racial slur for Southern Italians, especially Sicilians, because of their dark complexion. The penalties of blackness went well beyond name calling in the apartheid South. They're talking about in the southern states of the US. Italians who had come to the country as free white persons were often marked as black because they accepted black jobs in the Louisianan sugar fields, or because they chose to live among African Americans. This left them vulnerable to marauding mobs like the ones that hanged, shot, dismembered, or burned alive thousands of African American men, women, and children across the South. The federal holiday honoring the Italian colonizer and master of genocide, Christopher Columbus, Cristobal Colon, celebrated in October, was central to the process through which Italian Americans were fully ratified as white during the 20th century. The rationale for the holiday was steeped in myth and allowed Italian Americans to write a laudatory portrait of themselves into the civic record. Few who march in Columbus Day parades or recount the tale of Columbus's voyage from Europe to the New World and his enslavement of African people in Hispaniola and Puerto Rico and Jamaica and the Bahamas, etc. All that was conquered by Christopher Columbus. And we know Haiti is on the western third of the island of Hispaniola, and he conquers Haiti, Hispaniola in 1492. And we know that the French take over the western third of the island, the colony that they call Saint Dominique, which becomes Haiti or Haiti. The French take that over from the Spanish in 1697. Now, few who march in Columbus Day parades or recount the tale of Columbus's voyage from Europe to the New World are aware of the holiday, are aware of how the holiday came about, or that President Benjamin Harrison proclaimed it as a one-time national celebration in 1892 in the wake of a bloody New Orleans lynching that took the lives of 11 Italian immigrants. The proclamation was part of a broader attempt to quiet outrage among Italian Americans and a diplomatic blow-up over the murders that brought Italy and the United States to the brink of war. This is how Columbus Day started being celebrated in the United States. This deals with how Italians became white. Okay, now this picture right here, look at the guy in the middle. I'm lighter skinned than he is. Newly arrived Italians are waiting to be processed at Ellis Island around 1905. All right, look, that's going to do it for us. We got to get out of here. Be sure to register for my online history classes also at our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. We have new classes starting up Saturday. Oh, it's going to be Sunday. First session is going to be Sunday, June 18th, 2023, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Ancient Kemet, the Moors, and the Maafa, understanding the transatlantic slave trade what they didn't teach you in school. We deal with thousands of years of history and what leads up to the transatlantic slave trade taking place. So that class is on sale $80, regularly $130. Even after the class is over with, you'll have full access to the class, so you can go back and watch it anytime, as much as you want. The class will normally be on Saturdays, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, but this first session we're doing during the Juneteenth season celebration, and it's going to be on Sunday, June 18th, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Okay. And we'll have the information at our website, theafricanhistorynetwork.com, theafricanhistorynetwork.com. All right. Remember, right now it's correct, wrong behavior is not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk